subscribe, like the video, and, if possible, join Patreon. But if you don't have much money, you can support the channel by watching the novels on euroaudiobooks.com. Remember that you can participate in the polls so that your favorite novel gets published for free.
And kill with one blow. Knowing the record of the sword god killing a guard with one sword, Uehara Shiraha can't underestimate Shinigami's Zampakuto. For Rukia and Hinamori Momo, combining Zampakuto with Zampakuto is the most suitable way for them. The two will be captains in the future, and they have received targeted guidance from Uehara Shiraha, so they're more courageous, and their next moves become more and more sharp and swift. For a while, the two petite figures were like two black butterflies, dancing around Uehara Shiraha. In the perception of the color of observation, Uehara Shiraha clearly felt the two people the determination in the Ryatsu. He nodded secretly. As expected of his apprentice, he has become stronger again. The so-called heart is actually belief. It is the most basic. When you cut someone, you think about knocking him down, and when you protect others, you think about not retreating even if you die. In this world where everything has souls, this belief will turn into a powerful force. Although it is not to the point of bursting, it will allow Shinigami to exert its maximum strength. If the heart is disturbed, the strength will become extremely poor. Now, Hinamori Momo and Rukia finally have a firm belief in their Ryatsu. It was also under the guidance of Uehara Shiraha that Ayase Nanao mastered the meaning of Ryatsu and had her own beliefs. And this belief is the beginning of being strong. The foundation of the three girls' strength was set by Uehara Shiraha. Their life paths are also deeply imprinted by Uehara Shiraha. However, at this time, Rukia, Hinamori Momo, however, did not feel her own progress. They just felt despair and powerlessness. Obviously, they had tried their best and tried every possible way, but the results were minimal. Uehara Shiraha, who closed his eyes and used only one finger, did not even move half a step from beginning to end. The difference in strength was so great that the two could not imagine it. In their impressions, even their captains could not reach this level. When they heard that Uehara Shiraha defeated 3 captains, they were just happy for their teacher and shocked by the teacher's strength. They could only imagine the confrontation and strength limit of the captain level. But now, they really felt the tip of the iceberg of the teacher's unfathomable strength. Finally, Hinamori Momo and Rukia, who were a little exhausted, looked at each other, stopped their movements helplessly, and began to breathe heavily, saying in unison, "Teacher Uehara, we can't do it. I'm sorry to disappoint you. Go back and practice white hits more to increase your physical strength." Uehara Shiraha was also generous in praising. "It seems that you have remembered what I taught you. That's great. Tell me, what reward do you want?" Although the education method of giving a sweet date after a beating is very common, it is indeed effective. While talking, the reward for the daily tasks have also arrived. His slashing technique and white hits have each gained a little proficiency bonus, which is one step closer to the Millennium Captain level. Uehara Shiraha is still looking forward to this. Hearing Uehara Shiraha's words, Rukia seemed to have thought of something. She took out a piece of drawing paper and looked at Uehara Shiraha with expectant eyes and said, "To show my gratitude, I drew a picture. Please give me more advice." Uehara Shiraha knew that the soul painter was itchy again when he saw Rukia's look. It was really 3 days without punishment. The roof will tear the tiles off. He did not take the drawing paper, but looked at the onion head with a gentle and easygoing look. "Rukia, let me tell you first, if you draw me as chubby again, you know the consequences." Rukia subconsciously covered her little butt, then smiled and took back her masterpiece, but there was regret in her eyes that could not be hidden. The teacher is the honorary president of the Painting Association. If she had the teacher's recommendation, she could join the Painting Association and let more people know the cuteness of Chabi. Looking at the funny Rukia, Hinamori Momo also laughed happily. She is very satisfied with her current life. After seeing the cruelty of the Shinigami world, Hinamori Momo did not retreat and had no fear, all because she had the man in front of her to rely on. Finally, Uehara Shiraha rewarded the two girls with a head-patting kill, and then took the two apprentices to have a big meal. It was a very pleasant and fruitful day. Deserved, when night came, in the splitting void space, Uehara Shiraha is developing the mind gem. During this period, his control over the mind gem has become stronger and stronger, and he has also excavated the deeper power of the mind gem as a treasure that can shake the transcendent or even the pseudo-spirit king-level powerhouse. The current mind gem is a killer for ordinary captains. Moreover, Uehara Shiraha has also developed various wonderful uses for the mind gem. For example, now he holds the mind gem and uses his mental power and Ryatsu to begin to exert its power. Suddenly, a vast and invisible divine power spreads in the space, as the power of the mind gem fills this world. This world has also undergone a mysterious change. It is no longer dead, but has a special rhythm, just like the sound of a heartbeat. There are also a few more clouds on the horizon, which can't be found if you don't look carefully. Uehara Shiraha, while looking up at the sky, he feels the magical rhythm of the space, and then nods with satisfaction. The power of Zanpakuts, Shurikai, and Bankai is not static, and will become stronger with personal strength and development. For example, Kaiaraka Shunsui Shurikai has 5 abilities. Bankai also has several scenes and can be called omnipotent. Raijin Jaka's Bankai's Zankatachi is like 2 different swords 1,000 years ago and now. This is all because of the different development levels. In Shurikai, Zukumaru's only ability is to transform into a nunchaku with a spear tip, comparable to Popo's Blank Blind Man stand. Really cool. But with the insect power, Silver Chariot can instantly evolve into Silver Chariot Requiem and become a world-destroying stand. Now, for Uehara Shiraha, the Mind Stone as a cosmic singularity is like a bug arrow. His stand, Zanpakut, and various other props can become stronger with the power of the Mind Stone. Even he can use the power of the Mind Stone to enhance his foundation. Chapter 69. The terrifying power of the Mind Gem, The reason why Vision was able to be born was due to the power of the Mind Stone, which is equivalent to creating life and soul. In the idealistic world of Shinigami, souls and consciousness are the strongest forces. Just as he had expected before, in this world where everything has souls and consciousness, the Mind Stone is too strong. Then Uehara Shiraha looked at Yinluo Jingdian in the splitting void space, and his heart moved, and he activated the power of the Mind Stone again. A powerful mental force invaded Yinluo Jingdian's consciousness space. All of a sudden, Uehara Shiraha saw a strange space. He first saw a piece of white, and then these whites flowed wildly and turned into a myriad of colors. There's a very powerful force in these colors. This power is very unusual. This is the source of Yinluo Jingdian's consciousness. Yinluo Jingdian is a magic weapon that has existed for hundreds of thousands of years. The source power contained in it is about to evolve into a mortal power. It is extremely powerful, like a vast ocean, and it is difficult to shake. In Uehara Shiraha's opinion, the Tsunami family wasted the magic weapon, the Shinigami Kagami. They used the Shinigami Kagami too roughly and did not bring out the true power of the divine body. For Uehara Shiraha, who possessed the Mind Stone, the Shinigami Kagami was a huge treasure. He began to use the power of the Mind Stone to attract and even control the huge source power of the Shinigami Kagami. After some practice, his control over the Shinigami Kagami and the Mind Stone became stronger. Uehara Shiraha felt that it was time to put these 2 artifacts to work. It was just right to test the specific power of the Infinity Stones in the Shinigami world. In the dark night, Uehara Shiraha came to the branch house of the Tsunami family with ease. This place is connected to the main house of the Tsunami family, which also occupies a large area and is luxurious and luxurious. After a few Shuanpa, Uehara Shiraha has come to the edge of the branch house of the Tsunami family. There's a house there that is not very conspicuous compared to other residences. Uehara Shiraha sensed several complex barriers with his observation haki. However, he ignored them and went straight through them, entering them, And by the way, he lifted the kid barrier that concealed his body and smell. At this time, Uehara Shiraha, wearing a Batman mask, appeared openly. The man in the room, who was dressed in gorgeous clothes, also discovered Uehara Shiraha's figure and said in a low voice, "How dare a sneaky man wearing a mask appear in front of me?" Shinichiro Tokunada. As he spoke, he held the treasure that could trigger the power of space in his hand and felt a little relieved. Just like the soul-communicating talisman, as long as he activated this treasure, he could use the power of space to escape from here. Shinichiro Tokunada, who had long dark green hair, wore a yellow robe on the upper body with noble decorations on it, but inside was a white haori and a death suit, and a sharp blade hung on his waist. He had a snake-like face similar to Ikemara Jin. However, this guy's eyes were open, and he had a condescending and shallow smile on his face, which made people feel unhappy at first sight. Uehara Shiraha did not look at Shinichiro Tokunada, but just glanced around and said in a very casual tone, "Hello, Shinichiro Tokunada. You can call me Tsutsuki Naruto." Tsutsuki Naruto, I've heard of this name. Shinichiro Tokunada had a shallow smile on his face. Uehara Shiraha looked at the Ikemura Jin with open eyes in front of him and said calmly, "It's really my honor. Then, you should know why I came. It doesn't matter what your purpose is, anyway you're finished." Shinichiro Tokunada sneered. "Who do you think you are, dare to touch this sacred artifact of the Shinichiro family? Do you know how noble our Shinichiro family is?" His expression, eyes, and tone were a little crazy. Although Shinichiro Tokunada praised the Shinichiro family highly, as if he was proud of the name Shinichiro. However, his expression and eyes showed a kind of condescending disdain. Not only did he not take the Shinichiro family seriously, he even seemed to be mocking everything in this world. Uehara Shiraha did not take this schizophrenic lunatic seriously. "Just a clown, nothing to worry about," he said calmly. "Of course it is very noble, just as noble as the existence of this world, even more noble than the Spirit King. After all, your ancestors brought down the Spirit King. Do you want me to give you a thumbs up? Ahaha, I didn't expect you to know this, it's great." Shinichiro Tokunada's expression became even more crazy. "This world is built on original sin. I don't think you're a boring person. Why don't you help me control the Shinichiro family? My tool, Daohain Aura, is also in your hands, right? Forget it. It doesn't matter anyway. It's just a lowly human being, insignificant. However, I need the Yinluo Jingdian in your hand. With it, I can become the head of the family legitimately." Recently, he felt that the family had noticed him. This is not good news. Without helpers and weapons, even if he is not suspected, it is impossible to implement his plans smoothly. So Shinichiro Tokunada is very anxious, and the mysterious man in front of him is his last straw. He wanted to hold on tightly. "What good would it do me to help you?" Uehara Shiraha's eyes flashed with disdain. This madman who wanted to see the world burn was so easy to control. No difficulty at all. After hearing what Uehara Shiraha said, Shinichiro Tokunada looked even more excited. In his opinion, Tsutsuki Naruto was also an ambitious person, and such a person would definitely not be able to resist the temptation of power, fame, and wealth. He could control such a guy. But the complacent Shinichiro Tokunada did not notice that the mind gem in Uehara Shiraha's hand was emitting a faint light. In the room, Uehara Shiraha was confronting Shinichiro Tokunada. After thinking that he could control Uehara Shiraha, Shinichiro Tokunada returned to his original arrogant and crazy look, sneering. "Are you negotiating with me, the future head of the Shinichiro family? Are you worthy?" His condescending disdain seemed to penetrate his soul and bones. Of course, the madness that penetrated deep into his bones was also visible to the naked eye. "People like you really can't communicate with words." Uehara Shiraha shook his head. "This guy is completely hopeless. The mind gem has clearly taken effect, making the other party think that only by relying on himself can he obtain the Yinluo mirror code and realize his plan. Shinichiro Tokunada should be convinced of this. However, this guy still can't distinguish between the big and small kings, and is still very anxious. This brain circuit is really different from that of normal people. However, He is just a tool anyway, so it doesn't matter how serious his psychological problems are. Since you can't convince the other party, just beat him up. It's so simple. Thinking of this, Uehara Shiraha raised his head and looked at Tsuneshiro Tokunada with a very oppressive gaze. I want to see if you, the future head of the family, are as strong as you are. The untouchables are untouchables. They only use violence. At this time, Tsuneshiro Tokunada sneered, "Don't underestimate the Tsuneshiro family and me. When you play the disgusting Shinigami game, I am getting stronger every day." As soon as he finished speaking, he found that the Tsutsuki Naruto in front of him suddenly disappeared. Tsuneshiro Tokunada reacted quickly, and the sharp blade was unsheathed in an instant, slashing behind him. In his opinion, the guy in front of him was just a sneaky guy who relied on the ability of Zanpakuto. If the other party was really capable, how could he hide his head and show his tail all the time? Moreover, Tsuneshiro Tokunada was sure that the opponent should not be very old, maybe only a few hundred years old. And he has noble blood and thousands of years of accumulation. How could he lose? This knife, can you block the power of 1,000 years? The knife light was like snow, dyeing the whole room white. With a flash of white light, Tsuneshiro Tokunada's blade accurately cut the enemy's vitals and blood splattered. Looking at the sharp blade that pierced through the enemy's body, he showed an extremely shallow and complacent smile. Oh hee, this is the end of offending the Tsuneshiro family. A lowly person like you will never hurt 10 of my hairs. However, the next second, the body pierced by the blade turned into a phantom and disappeared on the spot. The smile on Tsuneshiro Tokunada's face solidified, and his body flew out heavily. Although he used Ryatsu to defend himself, he couldn't help spitting out a mouthful of blood after landing. Tsuneshiro Tokunada, who was lying on the ground, gasped hard. At this time, he spit out blood and looked confused. Who am I? Where am I? I was killed in seconds? After adjusting his breathing, Tsuneshiro Tokunada stood up in a panic and looked at Uehara Shiraha, who was sitting at the table in the room with extremely shocked eyes. Until now, he couldn't believe that he would be defeated so easily. And what's more terrifying is that no matter how he recalled, he couldn't be sure when and how he was hit. Before, neither his spiritual perception nor his eyes noticed that the illusion was fake. Tsuneshiro Tokunada had never lost so thoroughly and so confused as he did now. This shows that the strength of both sides is not at the same level at all. How is this possible? Who is this guy? Is it the Zero Squad that is playing tricks? At this time, Tsuneshiro Tokunada no longer looked like the arrogant nobleman, just now, like a defeated dog. Uehara Shiraha said calmly, "This is just a small lesson. You won't be so lucky next time. Kneel down now." The 5 nobles are just like this. Tsuneshiro Tokunada was fooled by the power of the Mind Stone from beginning to end. Disrupting consciousness is even more pervert than Kaika Suigetsu. After all, Kaika Suigetsu only created an illusion, and the parameters were wrong, or other means could still be used to distinguish the true from the false. For example, Uno Anaretsu was very familiar with corpses because he had chopped too many people and had superb medical skills, and then he noticed the abnormality of Aizen's corpse. But if the consciousness is affected, there will be no doubt at all, no matter how sharp it is. This is absolutely unsolvable. Tsuneshiro Tokunada's face was distorted and his expression was cold. Except for that Kairaku Shunsui. He has never hated anyone so much. Now he hates the person in front of him to death, and the anger in his heart is like a volcano that is about to erupt. However, he can't do anything, and he can't even escape from here, because without Yin Luo Jingdian, his next plan is out of the question. So he must bow his head, but he will definitely take revenge for this, and no one can humiliate the people of the Tsuneshiro family like this. When he gets Yin Luo Jingdian, he will make this BD pay the price. When the time comes, he will burn Kairaku Shunsui and this BD in front of him to ashes. Thinking of this, Tsuneshiro Tokunada lowered his proud head and said in a tone of pretending to be submissive, "I admit that I lost this time. As long as you hand over Yamura Kagano to me and help me take the position of the head of the Tsuneshiro family, I will give you whatever you want. How about this proposal? Isn't it good?" Uehara Shiraha could see through what Shinichiro Tokunada was planning at a glance. And to some extent, the other party was holding the script he gave. So Uehara Shiraha was not in a hurry at all and said calmly, "Don't be in a hurry for Yanra Kagano. I want to see your sincerity first. The Shinichiro family has a lot of good things. Uehara Shiraha will not give up this opportunity to make a lot of money easily. Okay, what do you want?" Shinichiro Tokunada hid his thoughts well. With Yanra Kagano, he can kill other members of the Shinichiro family in one go and become the only heir of the family. As long as the position of the head of the family is in hand, he can convene a meeting of the 5 nobles to activate the ancient agreement and put pressure on the Zero Squad. With the support of those Zero divisions, he can control Suriidei. Then, he could do whatever he wants. Uehara Shiraha calmly stated his request. "I want control of the visual department." Shinichiro Tokunada's calculations are probably heard by Aizen, who is far away in the palace of Kainyaku. But this guy's plan is destined to be in vain, a pure clown. It's wishful thinking to use the 5 nobles to threaten the Zero division. It's a simple truth. The ancestors of the 5 nobles are awesome enough. They plotted against the Soul King, created the 3 realms, and became the controllers of Soul Society. So where are they now? Aren't these 5 people dead? The monk is in the Soul King Palace, looking down on everything, and he has been living well. Yawach, who claims to have absorbed the remains of the Soul King, is awesome enough, but he was still plotted to death by the monk and became the wedge of the 3 realms. The 5 great ancestors and the Spirit King couldn't beat Ichibai Haisub, let alone Shinichiro Tokunada, the clown. In the room, hearing Uehara Shiraha's request, Shinichiro Tokunada agreed without hesitation. Okay, no problem. He has indeed taken control of the visual department. But for him, the visual department is no longer the key to the plan. As long as the Yinluo Jingdian is in hand, everything will be fine. Shinichiro Tokunada's things are not so easy to get, nor are they so easy to take away. Then I wish us a happy cooperation. Okay. The 2 people who seemed to be talking happily had similar thoughts in their hearts. BD, clown. With the help of Shinichiro Tokunada, the inner ghost, Uehara Shiraha, quickly took control of the visual department. Shinichiro Tokunada honestly handed over various secret orders and means of controlling his subordinates. With these, even a pig can command the visual department to do things. However, Shinichiro Tokunada didn't care about this. The highest decision maker of the visual department will always be him. As long as the plan succeeds, he can take back the video department in a minute. This department is only temporarily in the hands of the other party. Uehara Shiraha ignored the other party's little thoughts. No matter what the other party thinks and does, it doesn't matter. The fate of this guy and the Shinichiro family is already determined. He had already written a script for these people. A week later, Uehara Shiraha handed over the video department to the hands of the Ting army. No one expected this powerful monitoring agency that originally belonged to the Shinichiro family suddenly changed its owner. Chapter 70, Aizen's Hueco Mundo plan. The mysterious thief, and this person is not even a member of the 5 great nobles. After taking control of the image hall, the court army and Uehara Shiraha also became much more convenient. However, Uehara Shiraha did not immediately hand over the Yinluo Jingdian to Shinichiro Tokunada. The heat is not yet, and it needs to wait. Shinichiro Tokunada is not desperate enough now, and has not felt enough pain. This scene is not exciting enough. So, Uehara Shiraha is waiting for a right time. Anyway, his life is getting more and more comfortable now, and he is not in a hurry at all. Number 996, no troubles, and can easily become stronger. How comfortable this life is, what is there to rush? On this day, Uehara Shiraha was humming and walking in Rukongai. Then the system prompted, "Congratulations on completing the daily task, walking in Rukongai. Rewards Ryatsu +1. White hits +1. In an instant, as if he had been enlightened, his momentum became stronger, and his control over white hits also became stronger. At this moment, a fragrant breeze blew, and a hot blonde beauty appeared in front of him. The beauty had proud curves, a beautiful face, and a black beauty mole at the corner of her mouth. She was the vice captain of the 10th Division, Matsumoto Ranjiku. At this time, the beautiful woman was looking at Uehara Shiraha with a playful look and said in a very seductive tone, "General Uehara, long time no see. So do you want to drink together? There is a hot spring pub nearby that is particularly good. It doesn't matter if you get drunk. You can play fun games together." While speaking, the blonde beauty Matsumoto Ranjiku walked to Uehara Shiraha with a pair of big eyes flashing and deliberately lowered her body. Her wide death suit could not cover her proud curves at all. As long as Uehara Shiraha lowered his head, he could see the unfathomable ravine. "Tai, what a big demon!" Uehara Shiraha's heart moved, but his expression was still stable. "Let's go." This woman looks older, but her mental age is only 8 years old, and she will go to the room if she is given a little color. Therefore, it is necessary to teach her a lesson. It's so comfortable. Don't you think so? In the mist, the lazy and innocent Matsumoto Ranjiku sighed hotly. At the same time, she showed a large area of attractive skin and the thrilling sun on her chest without any cover. In the warm spring water, Uehara Shiraha also showed her jade-like skin and said lazily, "It's really good." Although it is a tavern in Rukongai, the service and environment here are good. The young women who come and go are all wearing kimonos, and there is nothing to criticize about their attitude and etiquette. The water temperature of the hot spring is just right, and it is a place dedicated to Shinigami. While talking, 2 young and beautiful maids brought 2 wooden trays and placed them on the water, on which were precious ingredients and several bottles of fine wine. "Excuse me, please go down." Matsumoto Ranjiku took the small bottle and raised it to Uehara Shiraha. "Cheers." Uehara Shiraha also took a sip of the bottle, and the taste was okay. It was considered ordinary stuff in the Flower Street, but it was top-grade wine in Rukongai. Over there, Matsumoto Ranjiku was very generous and drank half a bottle of wine in tons. While Uehara Shiraha was still sipping slowly, Matsumoto Ranjiku had already finished 1 bottle and started to drink the second one. "Hey, a big beauty is drinking with you. Can't you be happy?" At this time, Matsumoto Ranjiku's eyes were rippling, her skin was slightly red, and it seemed that she could burst out of the area. Her body was like a ripe fruit, plump and soft, and her appearance was even more beautiful and seductive. But her expression, words, and eyes now were like a little girl, extremely innocent. Looking at this vivid scene, Uehara Shiraha recalled the first time they had intimate contact. It was very similar to now, also after drinking. Moreover, Matsumoto Ranjiku is not pretending to be innocent. She is a naive person. Who would have thought that this seemingly bold blonde beauty is pure in both body and mind? But the downside is that she is too clingy. Uehara Shiraha really can't bear to play with such a beautiful woman who is so innocent. He thinks that he can be nicer to her later. "Why don't you talk? Are you not good enough, brother?" Seeing that Uehara Shiraha didn't talk, Matsumoto Ranjiku playfully tickled Uehara Shiraha with her crystal toes under the water. Being provoked like this, Uehara Shiraha stood up like a tiger and hugged Matsumoto Ranjiku, who was begging for mercy with a sweet smile. "Woman, you asked for it." When Matsumoto Ranjiku returned to the 10th Division, all the soldiers felt that the vice captain was in a good mood and became more beautiful. At this time, Matsumoto Ranjiku was radiant, and beautiful beyond description. Many female Shinigami asked her what cosmetics she used and why her complexion suddenly became so good. Half a month later, in the Palace of a Night, Aizen nodded with satisfaction as he looked at the growing Espada. The few Arancars who had just been promoted to Espada were excited, and they all looked at Aizen with awe and admiration. The second-edged Picaro had a cold expression, and he lowered his head slightly and dared not look Aizen in the eye. The third-edged Dorodoni had the same beard as Hawkeye, laughed loudly, and the word loyalty was written all over his face. The fifth-edged Sandovici was petite and had a charming face, looking at Aizen with fiery eyes. The seventh-edged Musketa folded his fists across his chest. His eyes were defiant. As for the fourth-edged Pade and the sixth-edged Neros, they were more special. They were the products of special experiments. And they were also the first Minos Grande among all the Espadas to become Arankars. Ikamaru Jin looked at Aizen with a smile on his face and guessed a little of Aizen's true thoughts. Although these high-spirited Arankars regarded Aizen as an emperor and a god, Aizen never took them seriously from beginning to end. They were just defective products and experimental products, and were substitutes for those Minos Grande of the what level. When the Arankar experiment is completely successful, these people will be kicked out of the 10 million. In the Palace of Night, after the Espada meeting was over, the three Shinigami captains started a private secret meeting as usual. Tosin Kiname reported the recent findings. Lord Aizen, the Image Hall, and the Tsunemayo family have become a little strange recently. It is said that the family heirloom of the Tsunemayo family was stolen. It seems that after obtaining those materials, Uehara Shiraha has already started to attack the Tsunemayo family. He has been paying attention to Uehara Shiraha's movements, but he didn't find any problems. If Aizen hadn't determined that Uehara Shiraha was Tsutsuki Naruto, Tosin Kaname was doubting that their previous judgment was wrong. However, the theft of the Tsuneshiro family's artifact must be true, and only that Tsutsuki Naruto could do such a thing. Yes, this is also good news for you, Aizen said to Tosin Kaname with a smile. He knew that this subordinate had a strong hatred for the Tsuneshiro family and Tsuneshiro Tokunada. Tosin Kaname, wearing sunglasses and dreadlocks, bowed his head and said, "Lord Aizen, I will not hinder the overall situation because of my selfishness." His adherence to justice has reached the point of paranoia. The reason why he has not taken action against the Tsuneshiro family and Tsuneshiro Tokunada. On the one hand, it is for the overall situation. On the other hand, it is to prove that what he did was for justice, not brutal revenge. Looking at the harmonious scene between the monarch and his subjects, Ikamaru Jin, who felt like an outsider, said to show his presence. It's really scary. He got the sacred artifact of the Tsuneshiro family without making any noise. With this sacred artifact, Uehara Shiraha will definitely become more difficult to deal with. Lord Aizen, do you really want to let the boy grow up? Jin, don't worry. The sacred artifact is not important. Aizen's calm eyes showed the confidence that everything is under control. Uehara Shiraha is too involved. Whether it is Godiai 13 or the nobles, someone is watching him. If he suddenly disappears, it may expose our existence. Moreover, this strongest genius is not easy to be defeated. By consulting the information in the Great Spirit Book Corridor, he already knew the information about Yanra Kagano. Aizen thought that it was good news that Uehara Shiraha attacked Yanra Kagano. This means that the other party is aware of the lack of ability, and may even want to use Yanra Kagano to check his own Kaika Suigetsu. Superficial. It seems that this person does not understand the power and limitations of Shinigami deeply enough. After all, he is only a Shinigami of less than 100 years old, and his foundation is insufficient. Aizen thinks that he has mastered Uehara Shiraha's flaws and strength limits. Now he has several sets of tactics specifically for dealing with Uehara Shiraha. Ikamaru Jin narrowed his eyes and said calmly, "In this case, then we will attack his weaknesses." It is said that this commander-in-chief is very close to the vice-captain of the 10th Division, not as good as us. He had to make such a proposal because he had to spy on Aizen's true thoughts and at the same time sever his relationship with Matsumoto Ranjaku. Jin, you are really cold-blooded. I remember that Vice-Captain Matsumoto is your fellow villager. Uehara Shiraha is your classmate. Aizen smiled. Tosin Kiname frowned, but didn't say much. In his opinion, Ikamaru Jin felt threatened by him, so he showed his loyalty in this way. He is indeed a selfish, cold-blooded person. Tosin Kiname doesn't like Ikamaru Jin's style of doing things. But Ikamaru Jin is the companion chosen by Lord Aizen, so he is naturally his companion. So he didn't say much. Ikamaru Jin said in an extremely calm tone, "Lord Aizen, I said it. I am a snake with cold skin and no emotions. I will only lock onto my prey and swallow in one bite. Although I don't want to be an enemy of those two people, since they are blocking Lord Aizen's way, they are my prey. Please give me flowers. So they must die. He has chosen his own path and will only go all the way to the end. He will never look back and cannot look back. Aizen said in an approving tone, Jin, I am very happy that you have such awareness. But if you only do this, it is meaningless. Uehara Shiraha will never be defeated so easily, and reckless behavior will only anger the other party. Although Aizen will do whatever it takes, he is very disdainful of this simple and crude way of threatening. It is too unskilled, and there are too many uncertain factors. I know, Ikamaru Jin said unwillingly. Aizen retracted his gaze. Soul Society will be ours sooner or later. There is no doubt about this. At this stage, we have to develop the potential of Hueco Mundo. So I need you to join me in completely conquering Hueco Mundo and bringing all the Vasto lords under my command. Yes, Lord Aizen. Tosin and Ikamaru Jin both bowed their heads and accepted the order. At this time, in the tea room of the 13th Division's barracks, Kayaraka Shunsui looked at the tea in front of him with disdain, then took out his wine gourd and took a sip. Shishiro, your tea art is good, but I am not blessed with it. The wine I got from the old man on the mountain is more to my taste. Because of Jinjo Ko's matter, sure Yukitake has been unhappy. Now facing his old friend, his mood finally improved a little, and he smiled and said, You can't let the teacher hear this, otherwise you will have something to suffer. However, you look in a good mood. Have you finished your official duties? Recently, Kayaraka Shunsui has complained a lot, and there are more and more things to do, so busy that he doesn't even have time to drink. Kayaraku Shunsui took a sip of the wine and said with a smile, There is no end to official duties. I have seen through this. The reason why I am happy is something else. The artifact of the Tsuneshiro family was stolen, and they have been looking for the thief everywhere recently. He has always been at odds with the Tsuneshiro family. The reason is that this disgusting family once coveted the artifact of the ISC family. It was because of their persecution that so many bad things happened later. And recently, the Tsuneshiro family has become more and more arrogant, persecuting many small and medium-sized nobles. So Kayaraku, Shunsui hates the Tsuneshiro family. Did you catch the person? Although the Tsuneshiro family made a very hasty judgment on the case of Jinjo Kugo, sure Yukitake was a kind man and did not feel gloating about it. Instead, he was worried about the appearance of such a terrible thief in Siriidei. No, that thief is very unusual. Kayaraku Shunsui sighed. It is not an easy thing to escape from the 5 great nobles. After all, although the 5 great nobles have declined, they all have some very powerful trump cards. For example, the lost artifact of the Tsuneshiro family, the godsend weapon of the Shohoin family, the mysterious skills of the Shiba family, etc. Therefore, he was also very curious about the identity of this mysterious thief. Sure, Yukitake and Kayaraka Shunsui discussed the identity of the thief. Jushiro believed that this matter should involve the internal struggle of the 5 great nobles. Only the 5 great nobles have the information about the artifact and have the ability to do such a heavy thing. Kayaraku Shunsui even thought that the thief might be from the Tsuneshiro family. However, they did not come to any useful conclusion in the end because there were too few clues. And the legend of a mysterious thief in Siriidei gradually spread. In the present world, in Karakura town, in Uehara's store, Uehara Kisuk was concentrating on thinking. Mysterious thief? It's really interesting. The only one who can do this is Uehara Shiraha. Spatial ability is really incredible. Such ability is too tricky. It seems that the previous preparation is not enough. Next to him, Shohoin Yoruchi was eating fiercely. She said while eating, since that guy has already attacked the Tsuneshiro family, that means he is not an enemy. So Uehara, are you thinking too much? In Shohoin Yoruchi's view, as long as you target the people of the Tsuneshiro family, you can't be a bad person. Besides, her relationship with Uehara Shiraha is very strong now. The two have a deep friendship. It's really strange. Yuruchi was the one who was most hostile to Uehara Shiraha at the beginning. Why have you changed now? Uehara Shiraha teased, and then said seriously, I never worry that the man will cooperate with Aizen. As for the enemy, we are not qualified to be his enemy now, so there is no need to worry. It was precisely because of this that Uehara Shiraha helped Uehara Shiraha manufacture many special equipment and provided technical support. Chapter 71. Lively art exhibition. Of course, Uehara Shiraha's strange ideas also amazed him. Therefore, he was more curious about the extremely mysterious Uehara Shiraha and always wanted to figure out his purpose and ability. Shihoin Yuruchi raised his eyebrows and said casually, I did think this guy was a trouble before, but now he has proved himself and has been taking care of Yashiro all these years. By the way, have you finished the latest equipment that guy wants? Almost. Uehara Shiraha was a little helpless. The man and woman now are like his creditors, urging him for no reason. He even has less time to drink tea. He's been working overtime lately these days, and dark circles are coming out. However, one of these two people has mysterious abilities and strong strength. The other is his best friend, and neither of them can be offended. When he thought of this, Uehara Shiraha felt a little headache. Shihoin Yuruchi is now a bit flat. So, Uehara, you don't have to worry too much. With that guy here, we will definitely not lose. We just need to provide equipment. Because she has always been Uehara Shiraha's sparring partner, she knows how amazing Uehara Shiraha's progress is. In addition to those terrible abilities, Shihoin Yuruchi feels that this man is extremely reliable and trusts him very much. Now she is waiting for Uehara Shiraha to lead her to beat Aizen. I have actually thought about this problem, Uehara Shiraha said helplessly, but that guy is very casual and cannot be measured by common sense. So we need to make a more comprehensive plan. In his opinion, the reason why Uehara Shiraha has always emphasized that the cooperation between the two parties is a transaction is to stay out of it. They provide equipment and 563 technology, and Uehara Shiraha provides intelligence. That's all. This is also a very good result for them. Therefore, they still need to deal with Aizen in person after all. Uehara Shiraha knew this very well and was actively looking for solutions. Of course, it would be great if Uehara Shiraha could stand on their side completely, and many problems would be solved at this stage. But would things really go so smoothly? At this time, in the luxurious office of the Commander-in-Chief of the Imperial Army, Ayase Nanao was happily massaging Uehara Shiraha. Over the years, her massage skills have reached the expert level. However, the only one who could enjoy the massage of her, the Deputy Commander-in-Chief, was the Commander-in-Chief Uehara Shiraha. While enjoying the massage of the beautiful Deputy Commander-in-Chief, Uehara Shiraha smiled and said, You are so happy. Has your work become much easier recently? Because the Imperial Army has grown and expanded, there are more and more trivial tasks. Ayase Nanao's work attitude is very serious, so her free time is getting less and less. Therefore, Uehara Shiraha gave him some special advice. Commander-in-Chief, you are so wise. Ayase Nanao looked at Uehara Shiraha with admiration. A few days ago, Uehara Shiraha personally circled some names on the list and told her that these people could be reused. And the so-called reuse means to use them in a heavy way, no matter what dirty and tiring work is given to these people. Anyway, don't treat these people as human beings. The more work, the better. The more tired, the better. Others can relax and take a holiday when they have nothing to do. At that time, Ayase Nanao was very surprised and asked if these people had offended him. As a result, Uehara Shiraha told her that these people were undercover agents, and they were spies planted by the nobles. Ayase Nanao was shocked, and then felt that this was inappropriate. The undercover should be driven away immediately. And how could they work well if they were undercover? Unreliable. Facts have proved that Uehara Shiraha is right. These people are really hardworking and capable, and one can do 10 things. Suddenly, Ayase Nanao felt a lot more relaxed. Thinking of this, she was a little confused. Are those people really undercover? If they have no loyalty, why would they work so hard? Because others only lose their jobs but they lose their heads. Then Uehara Shiraha ordered, "Those who can come undercover are not too bad in terms of ability. So all the non-confidential work is given to them. If you can't bear this little hardship, what's the point of being an undercover?" The Imperial Army doesn't keep trash. Even if the Great Sage comes, he has to perform a fire ring, not to mention these undercovers. He found that the Shinigami were a little stupid and were not very good at conspiracy. So, Aizen couldn't figure out the reason. It's no wonder that these people were fooled by Aizen because they couldn't think straight. After listening to Uehara Shiraha's explanation, Aizen suddenly realized and said seriously, "General, I know, I won't let them sit idle." And Uehara Shiraha's words made the undercovers miserable. Other colleagues are relaxed and happy, but they are busy from morning till night, and from night till morning. This is more than 996. It is almost 007. In order to stay in the Ting army, they can only work hard to prove their value. As a result, the superiors keep urging them for intelligence. They're almost exhausted every day, so how can they have time to get intelligence? Every minute and every second in the Ting army, they are extremely tormented, and they really experience what is hell. However, they can only endure it. However, with these people's desperate struggle, the development momentum of the Ting army is more and more amazing, and the internal situation is thriving, and it looks particularly harmonious and beautiful. Half a year later, an art exhibition is taking place in Siriidii Ting Army Square. This kind of activity appeared in Siriidii for the first time, but the effect is very good. A group of Shinigami who love art gathered together to buy tickets to visit art exhibition halls. People came and went, and the scene was very lively. The proposer of this exhibition was Uehara Shiraha, and the Women's Shinigami Association was the main organizer. Several Shinigami associations, such as the Flower Arrangement Association and the Calligraphy Association, also contributed their efforts and people, so there were quite a lot of people coming. At this time, Uehara Shiraha and Kairaka Shunsui were strolling around the exhibition, looking at the long queues in the exhibition halls in front. Kairaka Shunsui joked, "Your works are so popular that this is almost your personal exhibition." Those exhibition halls are filled with Uehara Shiraha's works accumulated over the years, including paintings, sculptures, music scores. In addition, there are some strange things. Those works that ordinary people cannot appreciate belong to more avant-garde art. However, the calligraphy master Captain Aizen gave a very high evaluation of these works and highly praised Uehara Shiraha's calligraphy level. Because Uehara Shiraha is so popular, these exhibition halls are crowded. Even if the ticket price is high, it can't stop the enthusiasm of fans, especially those female Shinigami who are really willing to spend money. This shows how popular Uehara Shiraha is. It's not that my level is too high, but that everyone here is rubbish. Uehara Shiraha looked sloppy and full of hockey. He really didn't think these artworks were so great. These works are basically his casual works to complete daily tasks. However, his casual graffiti is a high-level masterwork in Siriidii. Whether it is artistic composition, lifestyle, or entertainment enjoyment, he is dozens of versions ahead of other people in Siriidii. In these aspects, the nobles and Shinigami of Siriidii are scum, and they are completely incomparable with Uehara Shiraha. This feeling of seeking defeat alone is really lonely like snow. Captain Ikamaru Jin is really strict. Kairaku Shunsui pointed at Ikamaru Jin. At this time, Ikamaru Jin was writing furiously on the whiteboard in the exhibition hall. Only Captain Tosin Kaname can appreciate your paintings. I guess no one plays pranks on him anymore, so he's a bit bored. Uehara Shiraha knew that Ikamaru Jin would make trouble near the third squad and tease passersby. This guy is also a fun guy. No wonder he's not liked by others. However, except for this poor-quality, silver-haired, squinty-eyed guy, other Shinigami are very friendly and harmonious, and they are constantly praised. Every exhibition hall is full of joy and high artistic content. It vividly interprets what is called human relationship accidents. When he saw the two, Ikamaru Jin nodded and said hello, squinting his eyes and said, It would be great if Captain Rhodes could be at this exhibition. He will definitely like the atmosphere here. As his successor, I will appreciate these masterpieces for him." At this time, Ikemarajin looked regretful, as if he was really sorry. Those who didn't know would think that he had a good relationship with the former captain of the 3rd Division. In fact, he just wanted to see people break down. That's true. Rhodes's music and the paintings in this exhibition hall are a perfect match. Looking at the comments on the whiteboard, Uehara Shiraha also smiled. "A blind man loves to see, and a deaf man loves to hear. Isn't that a perfect match?" Rhodes, that is, the former captain of the 3rd Division Torabashi, RJR. When he was not hollowed, he was also a famous artist in Seriidei. The Bankai Kinshiro dance troupe has a beautiful and lifelike voice, and the deaf people all say it's good. No wonder the future Stern Knight hero, Masuko, gave a thumbs up to Muguruma Kensei and Torabashi RJR. One does what he says and doesn't waste people's time. The other explains his abilities in person and instructs others on how to crack their own Bankai. Both of them are open-minded, real men after that. Ikemarajin also promoted his old boss's exhibition hall to the 2. There are Captain Aizen's calligraphy works in front. You can go and have a look. It is said that when Captain Aizen taught calligraphy, there was no place to stand. I wonder which one is more popular compared to Baiyujun. I can't say who is more popular, but you're the least popular one. Uehara Shiraha came to kill the heart. This is actually a good thing. If you die in the line of duty, the funeral can be held as a happy event. When the time comes, I will let Captain Tosin carry your coffin personally, and I will definitely lock you up in the hell level. Ikemarajin laughed dryly. Then I'll leave it to Baiyujun. After that, he nodded to Kairaku, Shunsui, and then ran away. Obviously, he couldn't compare with Uehara in terms of talking. Shirahas. People who like to laugh only like to watch the fun, but don't like to be funny. Ah, you two have such a good relationship. Kairaku Shunsui felt like he was watching a crosstalk. He couldn't help laughing, and he wanted to have a drink right away. Uehara Shiraha said confidently. Of course, after all, they were old classmates who had been together for a year and didn't communicate much at that time. How could they not have a good relationship? Ikemarajin is a very pure person. There are many such people in Seriidei. Uehara Shiraha doesn't hate such people, but of course he doesn't like them either, just like that. Looking at the enthusiastic, smiling faces around him and the Shinigami who wanted to come but didn't dare to come, Kairaku Shunsui praised. "Brother Baiyu, it has to be you. Ordinary people don't have such wonderful ideas. Look how happy everyone is." Even the stubborn old man Yama attaches great importance to this exhibition. Generally speaking, the old man Yama doesn't like things that are too trendy and even resists them a little. But now the banner hanging in the square reads Seriidei's first art exhibition, and these big words are written by the old man Yama himself. There is no love without reason. Uehara Shiraha made a gesture of counting money. The ticket revenue of this exhibition should be paid to Jianjun and Godiai 13. Why only 70% is given to Godiai 13? Kairaku Shunsui was surprised. When it comes to wine money, even brothers have to settle accounts clearly. 70% is for Tingjun and 30% is for Godiai 13. Godiai 15 contributed money, manpower, and effort, and finally only got 30%. That's it. How many people want to get it, but don't have a way? Uehara Shiraha shrugged and said, "Of this 30%, 20% is the fee for the old man, and the rest is public. Seriidei is full of business opportunities and money everywhere. It's too easy to make money from Shinigami and nobles. Any idea Uehara Shiraha comes up with is a golden idea. He is the real idea king." Just like now, after an exhibition, Uehara Shiraha's coffers have a considerable income, and he just moved his lips and provided the venue and made a lot of money. "You are worthy of you." Kairaku Shunsui gave Uehara Shiraha a thumbs up. In his heart, he has already calculated how to empty the old man's coffers. 20% is not a small amount, which can buy a lot of good wine. As for Uehara Shiraha, forget it. It's too difficult to cheat, and his niece is in charge of the accounts, so he dare not cheat. At the exhibition, Uehara Shiraha continued to chat with Kayaraku Shunsui. He looked Kayaraku Shunsui up and down and said casually, "Brother Kayaraku, are you worried?" Generally speaking, after chatting for now, the two should go to the red light district to have fun. But at this time, Kayaraku Shunsui looked uninterested, and it was not just because of the problem with his waist. Kayaraku Shunsui did not hide it. It was Jushiro. He blamed himself for Shiba Kaien's incident. He was very optimistic about Vice Captain Shiba, and even Captain Yuri was prepared for Shiba Kaien. Who would have thought that Vice Captain Shiba would be so young? 2 months ago, Shiba Kaien and Shiba 2 died in the battle with Hollow. Except for Hollow Knight, Godei 13 has not lost any Vice Captain or Captain-level Shinigami in the past 100 years. Moreover, this Vice Captain of the 13th Division is also the current head of the Shiba family. No one expected Shiba Kaien's death. Everyone was shocked and felt sorry for Shiba Kaien's death. The saddest one among them was sure Yukitake. First, Jinjo Ko, then Shiba Kaien. His old friend has been hit one after another recently and has been in a low mood. Kayaraku Shunsui was a little worried about this. Uehara Shiraha suggested, "This exhibition will last for several days, so Captain Jushiro, come here and take a look. Maybe you will feel better." Some of the works here are abstract but full of childishness, which can really heal the soul. Anyway, Rukia always looks full of energy after watching Jushiro. Chapter 72, Uehara Shiraha's terrifying feeling of oppression besides. Even if sure Yukitake's mood didn't improve after watching the exhibition, he still paid for the ticket, which increased the GDP of Seoul society, and at least Uehara Shiraha would feel better. "That's a good idea. I'll try it." Kayaraku Shunsui raised his head and smiled freely. "But there is one more thing. I need a trouble brother by you." At the number 1 training ground of the Imperial Army headquarters, Uehara Shiraha and Kayaraku Shunsui were confronting each other. This training ground covers a very large area, has complete facilities, and is surrounded by powerful barriers. Some layers of barriers were imposed by Uehara Shiraha himself. An ordinary Bankai could not break them, and even Ryatsu could not penetrate them. Kayaraku Shunsui looked at this luxurious training ground and said in amazement, "Compared with your training ground, our training ground of the 8th Division looks so shabby. For him who is lazy by nature and hates work, he may never be able to expand his power and territory so quickly, and it is simply changing every day. It's simple, just have hands." Uehara Shiraha really didn't think it was difficult. If you don't have money, just go to Rukongai and shout twice, and you'll get it. If you don't have money, just go to the noble's house to get it. What's so difficult about that? Just thinking about it. The system prompted that today's daily task was completed. Congratulations, host, for completing the daily task. Chatting for 30 minutes. Get the reward of observation hockey +1. No flash +1. In an instant, his mind was filled with many insights about observation hockey and the 7 flash / technique. The observation hockey in his body instantly changed from quantitative change to qualitative change, and an amazing transformation occurred in an instant. His momentum also changed accordingly. When the transformation was completed, his observation hockey became more powerful, both in quality and quantity, more than 10 times higher than before, and the effective range could easily cover the entire training ground. At the same time, Uehara Shiraha was surprised to find that many scattered pictures appeared in his mind. In those pictures, Kayaraku Shunsui was talking, but in reality, Kayaraku Shunsui did not speak. Uehara Shiraha hurriedly looked at the character panel, and sure enough, it showed the proficiency of observation hockey has reached the perfect level. In the past 6 months, he has invested almost all Shadow Clone in the development and practice of observation hockey. So it only took half a year 29 for him to raise the proficiency of observation hockey from Grandmaster level to perfect level. It turns out that these investments are worthwhile, and now there are rich returns. Because after the proficiency reaches the perfect level, Uehara Shiraha's observation hockey awakens the ability to foresee the future. Now, he is really not afraid of any sneak attacks, and his survivability is directly maxed out. Moreover, when observation haki is promoted to the perfect level, it can also awaken stronger abilities, which is great. At the same time, Kairaku Shunsui suddenly found that Uehara Shiraha in front of him suddenly became more ethereal and unpredictable, as if he had completed some amazing transformation. This change in momentum is different from Ryatsu, and it cannot be sensed by spiritual perception. Kairaku Shunsui can only sense it by relying on the unique intuition of the strong. He couldn't help but exclaimed, "Brother Baiyu, you are too outrageous. It's already strong enough, and it can break through and become stronger at will. How embarrassed are we ordinary people? Sometimes, I really wonder if you are the illegitimate son of the Spirit King." Although Kairaku Shunsui is also a genius among Shinigami, but compared with this genius in front of him, there is a world of difference. Under the crushing of Uehara Shiraha's powerful talent, it's a bit of a flattery to say that he is an ordinary person. When I think of sparring with Brother Kairaku, I feel very stressed, so I become stronger unconsciously. Uehara Shiraha made a joke. Kairaku Shunsui smiled bitterly. "Forgive me, I regret asking you to fight. Sparring should be just a side job. You have something to tell me, right?" Uehara Shiraha glanced around. There was no one around. It was very empty. It felt like a golf course, very suitable for talking about some confidential matters. Kairaku Shunsui nodded and said, "I actually have some doubts that Kaien's attack is related to the previous Hollow incident, and it is very likely related to the Tsuneyashiro family. As far as I know, the Tsuneyashiro family has been conducting Hollow experiments before, so they must be very sure." No matter how he thought about it, he felt that Shiba Kaien's death was strange, as if it was deliberately designed. Although everything seemed natural, the experienced Kairaku Shunsui still found out the abnormality through some clues. "I think it is very likely." Uehara Shiraha did not find it strange. In fact, when the Tadashi incident occurred, Raku Shunsui believed that it was Tsuneyashiro Tokunada who was behind it. Of course, there may be some induction from Aizen, but also shows how much Kairaku Shunsui dislikes the Tsuneyashiro family and Tsuneyashiro Tokunada. Kairaku Shunsui reminded, "Although it has been peaceful for 100 years, I always feel that things are not going well. Considering the group crisis induction incident a year ago, I can be sure that something bad is happening. So, you, and Nanao should be more careful next time." That's why he suddenly wanted to spar with Uehara Shiraha, because he was unsure. The enemy should be right next to him, but he couldn't detect it, which made him very uneasy. "I will." Uehara Shiraha was already a little eager to try. "Then let's get started." In fact, all the problems that Kairaku Shunsui was worried about were not problems in his eyes. However, in order to make Kairaku Shunsui feel more at ease, he would practice with him. It was just right that he could also get familiar with the powerful effect of the observation haki in actual combat. Sensing Uehara Shiraha's fighting spirit, Kairaku Shinsui's eyes lit up and he grasped the two swords, one long and one short, at his waist. This is his Zanpakuto Kaiten Kaikatsu. The long one is Hanaten and the short one is Kwangu. The two swords have basically the same appearance, and both have red tassels on the handles. Uehara Shiraha also set his sights on the two swords. Kaiten Kaikatsu is also a famous sword in the Shinigami world, which is a breeze-type slashing type and a kid-type Zanpakuto. These are the only 3 sets of double-sword Zanpakuto in the entire Shinigami world, namely Shuriukite Shijo no Kodawari, the Kaiten Kaikatsu. In front of him, Ichigo Buddha's double-sword Zangetsu. However, Shijo no Kodawari was 1 sword before Shurikai, and became 2 swords after liberation, so strictly speaking it is not a real double sword. Kaiten Kaikatsu is 2 swords both before and after liberation. But in fact, the original Kaiten Kaikatsu was 1 sword. In order to hide the 8 mirror swords of the ISE family, Kairaku Shunsui split Kaiten Kaikatsu into 2 swords. The 8 mirror swords are hidden in the short sword Kwangu. In other words, in the entire Shinigami world, the only real, pure, natural double sword Zanpakuto is the double sword Zangetsu during the 1,000-year Bloody War period. In Kairaku, Shunsui not only successfully split Kaiten Kaikatsu into 2 swords, but also developed it very perfectly. Shirkai developed several particularly powerful games. Bankai's ability is even more prominent as a challenge beyond the level, defeating the strong with the weak, which is very unsolvable. Kairaku Shunsui can Kaiten the development of Kaikatsu to this extent is already very remarkable, comparable to the development of the meatball fruit by the tyrant bear next door. Only an old silver coin like Kairaku Shunsui can play a Zanpakuto like Kaiten Kaikatsu that requires operation. On the training ground, Kairaku Shunsui's pink captain's Haori fluttered in the wind, looking very showy. He adjusted his bamboo hat. The next moment, his Shunpa had crossed a long distance and came directly in front of Uehara Shiraha. With a flash of white light, the long sword, Hanaten, had already slashed at Uehara Shiraha's arm, and at the same time, the short sword Kwangu was ready for a sneak attack. The two had sparred many times and were very familiar with each other's methods. Kairaku Shunsui knew how perverted Uehara Shiraha's spiritual perception was. He also knew that the opponent was proficient in all kinds of Zanpakuto, and each of them was terrifyingly strong, even far beyond the level of ordinary captains. This kind of all-round strong man is the most difficult one. So Kairaku Shunsui chose to attack first. Uehara Shiraha was also familiar with Kairaku Shunsui's moves and Zanpakuto, so it was very easy for him to deal with it. He dodged and slashed with a backhand. Kairaku Shunsui Shunpa dodged this sharp knife. His expression was solemn and his eyes were shining. Brother Bayu's strength has indeed become stronger. During the previous sparring, Brother Bayu did not handle it so easily. Thinking of this, Kairaku Shunsui's mind became more focused, and he used Shunpa to launch another surprise attack. This time, he fired at full power. The 2 swords danced into a ball of silver light, like mercury pouring on the ground, without any flaws. To launch such a fierce attack, space is needed, and only Kairaku Shunsui's Shunpa can do this. His Shunpa is not only fast, but also has a long range, so it can launch a surprise attack from a long distance. Come on! Uehara Shiraha is also a connoisseur, and he sees that Kairaku Shunsui's killer move actually has a secret. Kairaku Shunsui's long short sword just blocked his space for dodging, and the 2 swords cooperated perfectly. Such a move is impossible to dodge. He is worthy of being the captain of the millennium. His combat experience, combat intuition, and combat skills are all amazing. However, Kairaku Shunsui's carefully arranged killing move still had loopholes in front of the perfect observation hockey. The screen flashed, and Uehara Shiraha saw the future direction of the opponent's double swords, and also saw those flaws. He did not hesitate and stab with a knife. Compared with Kairaku Shunsui's colorful and skillful killing moves, Uehara Shiraha's knife was like a mountain stream, natural and smooth. At first glance, there was nothing surprising, but it already contained the truth of heaven and earth, which could be called returning to nature and great ingenuity. Moreover, this knife, without any fireworks breath, instantly penetrated Kaiten Kaikatsu's defense and went straight to Kairaku Shunsui's vitals. Later, but first, what a wonderful knife! Kairaku Shunsui flashed and quickly dodged. Just now, if he was a little slower, his throat would have been pierced, and Kairaku Shunsui even felt the coldness on the tip of the knife. He broke out in a cold sweat. That dagger that frightened even gods and ghosts made even this 1,000-year-old captain feel a little frightened. A simple move actually gave Kairaku Shunsui an incomparable sense of oppression. This was not the oppression of power, but a higher level of spiritual oppression. At that moment, Kairaku Shunsui felt that all his thoughts and actions were invisible in Uehara Shiraha's eyes. That's why the opponent's counterattack was so swift and so deadly. This feeling of being completely seen through was the first time he experienced it. At this time, Uehara Shiraha was also thinking secretly. He can react to this. Brother Kairaku's combat experience is indeed extraordinary, and his reaction speed is also very fast. After the actual combat test just now, he has become familiar with the power of the perfect level observation haki and has also figured out the specific effect of foreseeing the future. It can only be said that he is invincible. Even Kairaku Shunsui, the captain of the Millennium, is limited in the face of this ability. It is good to be able to exert 30% or 40% of his skills. Over there, Kairaku Shunsui also seemed to realize something and adopted a more conservative way to fight. He no longer simply used slashing and shuinpa to fight, but added Kid, trying to confuse Uehara Shiraha with a changeable battle rhythm 777. In terms of slashing, offering, and walking, both of them are top masters. One has thousands of attribute points and a lot of training experience provided by Shadow Clone. The other has a Millennium accumulation device and countless combat experience. So the battle rhythm is amazingly fast. In just a moment, several figures of two people fighting appeared in the air, as if there were several Kairaku Shunsui and Uehara Shiraha fighting at the same time. While fighting with high-speed slashing techniques, the two people were in a state of time. So, before the slash waves were scattered, the place where the two people fought had already been washed by Kid. For a moment, the sky and the earth trembled slightly. The scattered, terrifying Ryatsu hit the surrounding barriers like waves, and then disappeared, as if it had hit some indestructible, huge reef. Facing the full fire Kong, Lu Shunshui, Uehara Shiraha fought more and more easily, and there was a case in the beginning of the country. Kairaku Shunsui on the other side was more and more frightened and more frustrated. In order to gain a little advantage, he racked his brains and took all aspects into consideration. But all his calculations, all his plans, and all his cautions were useless. Uehara Shiraha can always destroy the advantage he created easily in an unexpected way and then take the initiative. It's as if there's a pair of eyes in the dark, watching all his actions and thoughts. That kind of invisible pressure is enough to crush an ordinary captain. At this point in the battle, Kairaku Shunsui has determined that this is definitely not explained by strong perception. Even Tosin Kanami's spiritual perception is not so perverted. Even the opponent's sense of belonging is not qualified to be compared with Uehara Yuyu. This pressure is really terrifying. What kind of ability is this? In the number 1 training ground of the Imperial Army, two figures, one red and one white, are fighting in a group, and the fight is indistinguishable. After landing again, Kairaku Shunsui quickly collided the two swords in his hands. Not good at it alone. With the sound of crisp metal collision, a white spiral hurricane rushed towards Uehara Shiraha. This is a unique move of Kairaku Shunsui, which is more powerful than ordinary Zanpakuto Shurikai. This airflow is not only extremely fast, but also has a binding effect, and can even restrain Stark's wolf pack, which can be said to be an attack and defense in one. However, seeing the extremely wide hurricane coming towards him, Uehara Shiraha's body did not move at all, and he was not afraid. Because through observation haki, he had already understood that this was a move to block the movement, so there was no need to dodge. Sure enough, the violent hurricane flew past his side. Uehara Shiraha was unscathed. Seeing Uehara Shiraha calm and composed, Yuan La Chunshui said in surprise, "Although I was just guessing before, I didn't expect that Bayu's ability is really so strong." Chapter 73. The great enemy Tsuneshiro Tokunada, since you have awakened such an ability. Ordinary moves are meaningless. Do you want to play a few games and enjoy the fun of being a child again? With his experience, he has seen what Uehara Shiraha's ability is. However, he did not say it, nor did he ask for any information related to the ability. Such a powerful ability must be kept confidential. Although there are partition barriers carefully set up by Uehara Shiraha around, which can prevent conventional surveillance methods, Kairaku Shunsui still habitually defends himself. However, precisely because Uehara Shiraha's ability is too strong. He can't put pressure on Uehara Shiraha even if he uses all his means. That is to say, if he doesn't Shirkai, he doesn't even have the qualifications to feed Uehara Shiraha. For a while, Kayaraka Shunsue's mind was a little dazed. The look he gave Uehara Shiraha became more shocked. It took him 1,000 years to have such strength, but he didn't even have the qualifications to be a sparring partner for Uehara Shiraha. How long has the opponent been a sparring partner in total? Shinigami? And I don't see this kid practicing so hard normally. Isn't the talent gap a bit too big? That's not a bad idea. Uehara Shiraha also wanted to see Kaiten Kaikatsu's Shirkai. When they sparred before, they just stopped at a certain point. During those sparring sessions, Uehara Shiraha also learned a lot and improved his strength. But now times have changed. The top-level observation Haki plus the future foresight suppressive power is too strong, and it is really difficult for normal Kairaku to play. The battle will be more enjoyable after the opponent Shirkai, and it can also better test the power of the perfect level observation Haki. Seeing Uehara Shiraha nod, Kairaka Shunsui released his Zampiket. The flower wind is in chaos. The flower god is crying. The sky wind is in chaos. The sky demon is sneering. Kaiten Kaikatsu, the powerful Ryatsu, surged out. An invisible force covered the battlefield where the two fought. This is Kaiten Kaikatsu's Shirkai. It seems to be Kid type is actually closer to Rule type, and it is still a range-based indiscriminate ability. The same is true for Bankai. Originally, Kairaka Haru could release it without saying the release words. However, it is rare to have a good time with Uehara Shiraha, so of course this ritual is done to the fullest. Kairaku Shunsui is still looking forward to this battle. He was too frustrated before, and now he wants to get back with Kaiten Kaikatsu's Shirkai. After Shirkai, Kairaku Shunsui introduced Kaiten Kaikatsu's Shirkai ability as usual. Kaiten Kaikatsu's Shirkai represents children's games, which can be derived into some small games. Each game has unique rules, and as long as these rules are used well, you can gain an advantage. However, I can switch games at any time, so I have the initiative in this regard. Next, I will show Kaiten Kaikatsu's anti-game. Then, have fun. Come on. Uehara Shiraha was also a little curious whether the ability to foresee the future could cope with the complex and changeable Shirkai, Kaiten Kaikatsu. He was no stranger to Kaiten Kaikatsu's Shirkai. Because it was a sparring match, Kairaka Shunsui had just pointed out the tricky part of Kaiten Kaikatsu, which was that the opponent could actively change the game at any time. This was also in line with the temperament of a child, who would cheat and change the game if he couldn't beat the opponent. Thus, Kairaka Shunsui was able to take the initiative in the game. However, even so, Uehara Shiraha didn't think he would lose, even if he only used observation Haki in Zankengazu. Kairaku Shunsui, who was ready at this time, came into the air with a Shunpa, raised Zampiket, and said, "The first game is called Zanki, and the rule is that the one who is higher wins, the higher the position, the more powerful the slashing technique." After saying that, he slashed at Uehara Shiraha fiercely. A huge slash wave that was many times stronger than before flew towards Uehara Shiraha. Uehara Shiraha, who saw the future clearly, chose the best way to deal with it in an instant. He swung Splitting Void and slashed upwards. The perfect level stand White Album brought huge life energy, and the vigorous vitality represents a strong physique and tyrannical power. Finally combined with Ryatsu, this natural god, power was transformed into a terrifying slash. Boom! With a thunderous roar, the two terrifying slashes in the sky and on the ground collided with each other. The earth cracked, the air exploded, and even the surrounding barrier was slightly shaken. At this moment, Kairaku came from the sky, Shuinsue's voice, Shadow Ghost. The person whose shadow is stepped on loses. After the game starts, both sides can drill into the enemy's shadow. Attacking the enemy's shadow at the same time can also cause damage to the enemy. 11 after saying that, he came behind Uehara Shiraha with a Shuinpa, and then disappeared. This was a complete disappearance, Whether it was the figure, Ryatsu, or the breath, all disappeared, as if teleporting to another world. 3 breaths later, Uehara Shiraha suddenly turned around and slashed at the shadow behind him. The next second, Kairaku Shunsui drilled out of the shadow, but the terrifying slash had already arrived in front of him. Kairaku Shunsui, who had been prepared, immediately said, "Yengue White." The powerful slash slashed on his body. However, Kairaku Shunsui was unharmed. He quickly performed Shunpa and appeared in the distance. At this time, Kairaku Shunsui added the rules of the game of Yinga. The third game is called Yingue. After one of us says a color, the 2 sides can only damage the area covered by that color. For example, if I say white and my clothes are red, your slash will be invalid. If I just said red, then my whole body will be a weakness, but at the same time, my slash power will be greatly increased. That is to say, the fewer colors on your body, the harder it is to be slashed, but the slash power will be weaker, and when the corresponding color is hit, it will receive a higher degree of damage. Understood. Uehara Shiraha is indeed very familiar with these 3 classic games. Stark was killed by Kairaku Shunsui using Yingue. At that time, he activated Yingue and set the color to black. Then Kairaku Shunsui took off his red robe, revealing a black death suit, and slashed at Stark's black hollow. His whole body is black, and the power of the slashing technique is greatly increased. Stark in the white windbreaker has only black hollows, and the damage he receives is doubled. The strongest after the buff is fully stacked Espada, was sent away directly. However, with the ability to foresee the future, Uehara Shiraha was like playing a game with perspective. He was very stable, so he could not be tricked. So next, even though Kairaku Shunsui switched back and forth between the 3 games and played them in a fancy way, Uehara Shiraha was not hurt at all. On the contrary, he was almost tricked by Uehara Shiraha with the help of the game. After all, the ability to foresee the future was too buggy. Facing Kaiten Kaikatsu after Shirkai, Uehara Shiraha also felt the pressure. Originally, his Zankenkizu and Ryatsu were not much different from Kairaku Shunsui, but one had Shirkai and the other did not, and the gap was immediately revealed. Even so, Kairaku Shunsui chose to be cautious and did not attack blindly, because that kind of ability to predict the future was too terrifying. Facing this ability that seemed to be able to see through everything, he could not make a wrong step. With such an ability, the opponent would definitely not make mistakes, nor would he miss any of his flaws. This has been proven in the previous battle. It's like playing rock, paper, scissors with someone who never makes mistakes. How can you win? Thinking of this, Kairaku Shunsui secretly complained, "Even if it's brother by you, it's a bit too incredible to have such an ability. If it's used to pick up girls, then any kind of cold beauty can be taken down. However, Brother Bayou seems to be able to take down those beautiful girls without such an ability. I'm really envious." After a thrilling and clever calculation, Kairaku Shunsui chose to play GG. Can't fight at all. Facing such a cheating player, his ability to test people's hearts and wisdom is a waste. Thank you. You played well. Uehara Shiraha was refreshed and even wanted to play again. This kind of battle that is clearly under control is really fun to fight. Facing the mysterious and unpredictable children's game, Observation Hockey performed perfectly. After the first battle, he became more proficient in foreseeing the future. Kairaku Shunsui smiled bitterly and said, "I tried my best, but I still lost." He was more and more confused and shocked about Uehara Shiraha's strength. Fortunately, Uehara Shiraha was on their side. So the stronger the opponent's strength, the more relaxed and relieved Kairaku Shunsui was. After witnessing Uehara Shiraha's unsolvable predictive ability, some of his previous worries and pressures disappeared. "Let's go. Let's drink." Seeing Kairaku Shunsui's expression become relieved, Uehara Shiraha also made a man's invitation. The two went to the red light district happily. So it was another night of love with beautiful women. The next night, Uehara Shiraha put on camouflage glasses and a mask and came to Tsunoyashiro Tokunada's house again. When he saw Uehara Shiraha, Tsunoyashiro Tokunada, with dark circles under his eyes and pale face, suppressed his anger and said, "It's been almost a year, Tsutsuki Naruto. When will you fulfill your promise? Look at this room. It's almost been emptied by you. Are you still not satisfied?" After saying that, he looked around. All the furniture made of thousand-year-old red sandalwood was gone, and the priceless antiques and calligraphy and paintings were gone, and even the precious jade inlaid on the wall was taken away, leaving nothing behind. The originally luxurious and gorgeous room is now pitifully empty, and it is not an exaggeration to say that it is a bare house. Not only in terms of money, in the past few months, Tsunoyashiro Tokunada has been responsible for providing this guy with various intelligence. Before, although Tsunoyashiro Tokunada was a nominal prisoner, he enjoyed a luxurious life and controlled the video hall and many secrets. Compared to ordinary Shinigami, he lived like an emperor. He felt that he was more knowledgeable and freer than anyone else, and he despised those ignorant people from the bottom of his heart. But now, the money is gone, but there is still intelligence, right? Don't underestimate your potential. After saying that, Uehara Shiraha took out the Yinluo Jingdian and shook it in front of the other party, and then quickly put it back. It must be said that as the future villain boss, Tsunoyashiro Tokunada has a strong talent for intelligence work. Most of the undercovers of the Imperial Army were found by this guy. Originally, with Tsunoyashiro Tokunada's twisted mind and cerebral palsy-like IQ, it would be impossible for him to obey. But with the temptation of Yinluo Jingdian and the induction of the mind gem, Tsunoyashiro Tokunada could only be a dog. The moment he saw Yinluo Jingdian, Tsunoyashiro Tokunada's eyes lit up. For this family heirloom, he really suffered too much, and it was tears to talk about it. However, he could only watch the other party hide the Yinluo Jingdian. In the past few months, Tsunoyashiro Tokunada has tried every means, but there is no way to locate Yinluo Jingdian and this Tsutsuki Naruto. He was beaten up after several attempts to resist, and he almost had PTSD. Obviously, the artifact he had dreamed of was right in front of him, but he had no way to get it, just like watching his beloved goddess fall into the arms of someone else. Pain. It hurts so much. Uehara Shiraha shook his head and said, "You haven't figured out your position yet. How can I trust you to give this Yinluo Jingdian?" Tsunoyashiro Tokunada is still useful. He needs this guy to act as a guinea pig to test the power of the mind gem. Uehara Shiraha will not hand over Yinluo Jingdian to the other party before squeezing out the value of this guy. I understand. I will act according to your will. Tsunoyashiro Tokunada clenched his fists, feeling extremely humiliated. In his mind, this Uehara Shiraha is simply a demon, 10,000 times more hateful than Kaiaraka Shunsui. Before, he was not sure about his purpose, but just wanted to teach those ignorant people, especially Kongless Shunsui, a profound lesson. But now he just wants Nuo Zhao's to make this world feel pain and watch this world burn. He wants to destroy Uehara Shiraha and everything that the other party cares about. Uehara Shiraha nodded. That's right. As long as you are obedient enough, this Yinluo Jingdian and the Tsunoyashiro family will be yours sooner or later. He is also familiar with the trick of empty talk. Moreover, Tsunoyashiro Tokunada can still eat his cake. But the moment he eats it, it will be the day this guy dies. When I master the Tsunoyashiro family, I will serve you better. Tsunoyashiro Tokunada lowered his head, hiding his ferocious expression. He figured it out. Only if he behaved obediently enough, the other party would be assured and hand over Yinluo Jingdian to him. If the other party wanted to control the Tsunoyashiro family through him, he had to be prepared to be retaliated. Tsunoyashiro Tokunada would not be controlled by anyone. Uehara Shiraha thought about it, and it seemed that this guy really had no money to make, but he was prepared for this. Uehara Shiraha flipped his right hand, and there were several more blank papers in his hand, and then he handed them to Tsunoyashiro Tokunada. It's not that I don't believe you, but words are not enough, so write it down. This is my condition. If you think it's feasible, sign and seal it in the name of the head of the Tsunoyashiro family. These are just some blank papers, with no content on them. Tsunoyashiro Tokunada looked puzzled. Uehara Shiraha said in a matter-of-fact tone. Then what? Any questions? Just tell me whether you will sign or not. No problem, I will sign. Tsuneshiro Tokunada lowered his head again, his clenched hands trembling slightly. Sooner or later, he will repay such humiliation and hatred 100-fold. After that, Uehara Shiraha picked up the white paper signed by Tsuneshiro Tokunada and walked towards him without even looking at him. As for Tsuneshiro Tokunada's anger and hatred, he didn't care at all. What's there to care about the whining of a loser? Chapter 74, Are You the Only One Called Espada? The battle between Uehara Shiraha and Kairaku Shunsui was still spread. Captains Unohana Retsu, Yamamoto Jinryu Sai Shigekuni, and Shiryukatake were all shocked by Uehara Shiraha's strength. They knew how strong Kairaku Shunsui was, and they also knew that Kaiten Kaikatsu's Shurkai was more difficult than some captains' Bankai. Kairaku Shunsui was so serious, which showed that Uehara Shiraha's strength was far beyond that of ordinary captains, and even reached their level. In less than 100 years, he caught up with their accumulation of thousands of years. This was pure talent crushing. Except for talent, it was not talent. So terrifying. Jushiro was happy, Yamamoto was relieved, and Unohana was a little excited. Although Aizen, Tosen Kaname, and Ikamaru Jin already knew how strong Uehara Shiraha was, they still felt a little ripple in their hearts. In a short period of time, Uehara Shiraha's strength seemed to have become stronger again. It's incredible. Shiba Ishin and Kamamura Sajin didn't have too many thoughts, but just marveled at the strength of the two men, which was far beyond their ability to contend with. Byakuya Kuchiki clenched Senbin Zakura. His expression became even colder, and he began to practice rigorously again. And Zaraki Kenpachi's eyes were red. In recent years, he has challenged Uehara Shiraha many times, just thinking about having a good fight with Uehara Shiraha. The result was always unsatisfactory. After hearing the news of the fight between Uehara Shiraha and Kairaku Shunsui, he destroyed several walls in one breath, just to get to the battlefield as quickly as possible and then chop it up. However, the golden navigation of the 8,000 flow cards was as reliable as ever. By the time they arrived at the battlefield, the battle had already ended. Zaraki Kenpachi could only be furious and chopped off several iron pillars on the training ground. At the same time, Hazward in the shadows looked solemn and frowned slightly. The strength of this Uehara Shiraha has become stronger, and the threat to them is getting bigger and bigger. Unlike other arrogant guards, he is very cautious. At the same time, he is also a little helpless. Originally, I thought that His Majesty would wake up early. With His Majesty here, such a person is not to be feared at all, just like an ant. But now it seems that the strange sense of crisis felt a year ago should have nothing to do with His Majesty. At present, Hazward can only do his best to collect all the information about Uehara Shiraha. I hope that the other party has a limit, and his strength will not continue to grow as fast as it is now. Otherwise, this guy will definitely become their biggest worry. A few days later, the news that Uehara Shiraha defeated Kairaku Shunsui spread throughout the Siriidii. This is inevitable that some nobles have added fuel to the fire in order to sow discord and want to destroy the friendship between Uehara Shiraha and Kairaku Shunsui. Aizen just watched the changes and obviously understood that this little trick was useless. Other ordinary captains and vice captains were once again shocked by Uehara Shiraha's strength. After all, Kairaku Shunsui is the captain of the Millennium and the favorite disciple of the Captain General. His strength is beyond imagination. And such a strong man is not Uehara Shiraha's opponent. The title of the strongest Shinigami genius belongs to him. The morale and loyalty of the Imperial Army are once again full. With such a leader, the sense of security and cohesion are greatly increased. However, Tsuneshiro Tokunada broke the defense again. If there were no decent furniture in the room, he would definitely smash something to vent his anger. After possessing the perfect level of observation hockey, Masahara Shiraha has shifted his focus to the practice of slashing and white hits. He wants to quickly upgrade these two skills to the level of the captain of the Millennium and become a true hexagonal warrior. He is more versatile than Aizen. As for Siriidi's little disturbance, he didn't take it to heart at all. He did what he should do every day, eating, drinking, and having fun. Time passed quickly, and soon another year passed. In the luxurious office of Tingjun that day, Uehara Shiraha signed the important documents accumulated recently, and then enjoyed the intimate massage of Ayasinanao. While Ayasinanao carefully massaged Uehara Shiraha with her soft and delicate hands, she reported, "There's a problem with Hueco Mundo. The technicians detected the Ryatsu fluctuations beyond the norm. According to your previous order, they did not send ordinary Team Kings to attack. The specific handling still needs to be decided by the Commander-in-Chief. For Tingjun, she has a sense of belonging and is proud to be a member of Tingjun, because Tingjun has indeed made the world a better place, and even solved some problems that Godiai 13 has not solved. Therefore, Ayasinanao has always been very concerned about the affairs of Tingjun, big and small, and strictly followed the orders of Harabayu." Uehara Shiraha was a little puzzled and said, "The area where the base is located is on the edge of Hueco Mundo. There are still blind guys. I want to die. What's the purpose? Besides, he and Aizen have a tacit understanding. Uehara Shiraha will not affect the other party's plan, and Aizen will not cause trouble for him. They're all smart people, and they have some tacit understanding and credibility." After thinking for a while, Uehara Shiraha guessed the general situation. "I haven't made a move this year. It seems that some people think they are good again. In this case, I will go there in person. General, be careful of traps." Ayasinanao is absolutely confident in Uehara Shiraha's strength. However, is Hueco Mundo, after all, not Shinigami's home court? And the Minos Grandes have all kinds of weird abilities, so we have to guard against them. Uehara Shiraha said calmly, "Any trap is meaningless in front of me. In the entire Shinigami world, there are only a handful of beings that can threaten him. Moreover, these beings are either old silver coins or have not yet woken up. Uehara Shiraha is naturally fearless. He wants to see who is so blind that he dares to attack him." Hueco Mundo, Imperial Army Base, Uehara Shiraha's figure appeared through the gate. The technician next to him immediately saluted respectfully. "Hello, General," Uehara Shiraha asked. "Is the Ryatsu fluctuation that suddenly appeared a few days ago still continuing?" "Report to the General. It is still continuing, and it is getting stronger and stronger. But the position has not changed." One of the technicians answered immediately. Uehara Shiraha nodded and immediately headed towards Shuinpa, the place where the incident occurred. After a while of rushing, he sensed a powerful Ryatsu fluctuation in the distance. Two of the Ryatsu fluctuations were not inferior to the Minos Grande of the What level, and the rest were just some small fish. These virtual Ryatsu were still mixed and impure, typical Arankar Ryatsu. In addition, in the perception of the observation hockey, the area where these Arankars were located was murderous and had strange energy fluctuations. These fluctuations had no breath of life and should be some special barrier. In front of the perfect observation hockey, all conspiracies and tricks were exposed, and the opponent's carefully designed traps were all exposed. Uehara Shiraha's eyes flashed with cold light. "You dare to plot against me with this little ability. You are a little underestimated." The next moment, he flashed and rushed to the place where the Ryatsu wave came from at a faster speed. Uehara Shiraha, who was running at full speed, soon arrived at the destination. He did not hesitate and appeared in front of the enemy. A group of Arankars appeared from behind the sand dunes and surrounded Uehara Shiraha. Although these Arankars have completed Arankars, they still retain a small part of the characteristics of Hollow, such as claws and bones. Obviously, these Arankars are not perfect Arankars. Under the cold moonlight, the cold wind blew, and the dust rose everywhere. Uehara Shiraha was confronting a group of ferocious Arankars. Facing the large number of Arankars, his figure seemed extremely small. The two leading Arankars wore white windbreakers and had two long swords hanging on their waists. They were not tall, but their Ryatsu was very strong. The right half of the face of one of the Arankars was covered with a round, broken bone mask, and a number 6 was written on his chest. At this time, he looked at Uehara Shiraha with contempt and asked his companion next to him, "Pied, are you sure it's this guy? This dwarf doesn't look strong at all. Is he worthy of our 2 espadas to attack at the same time?" After conquering Berrigan, Aizen began to use Jayaku to create Arankars. All Arankars have a number. The earlier the Arankar, the higher the number. In addition, Aizen selected the 10 strongest Arankars from all Arankars and gave them numbers from 0 to 9 according to their strengths. "This is Espada." Another Arankar with a number for written on his chest spoke up. "Neros, have you forgotten the instructions of Lord Sailaporo? This Shinigami is different from those trash. We must treat it with caution." "Okay, as you wish." Neros with a defiant look said to himself, "I am Neros with 6 blades, and he is Pied with 4 blades. Whether you are the Uehara Shiraha we are looking for or not, you will die here. Because the 2 Espada standing in front of you are the strongest legion of Hueco Mundo." Looking at the 2 so-called Espada with the word trash written on their faces, Uehara Shiraha said calmly, "If you're cannon fodder, it is better not to talk big. No matter how fierce the words are, it can't change the fact that you are weak. Don't look at the names of these 2 Arankars. In fact, they're all trash. These 2 Arankars are just substitutes for Haribel and Ulquiorra, that is, experimental products and consumables used to fill the door. And the regular ones in the Espada chapter Espada is simply not comparable. And even those Espadas that performed very well in the plot were nothing but trash in Uehara Shiraha's eyes, not to mention the 2 fakes in front of him. Looking for death, Nero roared, raised his fist, and smashed it hard at Uehara Shiraha. Uehara Shiraha's expression was still very calm, and his body was motionless. Seeing this scene, Nero was delighted. "He dared to take my punch. This BD is dead." The 4-blade Pied stared and shouted, "Nero, get out of the way." At the same time, he started the ring and went forward to rescue. Nero was very confused. "Why should I hide? Didn't I hit the enemy? I have already won." Boom! With a loud bang, he punched Uehara Shiraha's body with a powerful punch. But the expected scene of the enemy being knocked away did not appear. At this time, Uehara, whose body was motionless, Shiraha slowly sheathed his sword and punched away the attacking Pied. "I wonder when he drew his sword. I didn't even notice it." Nero looked even more puzzled. Then his body suddenly fell down. A long wound suddenly appeared on his chest, and blood gushed out like a fountain. At the last moment of his life, Nero remembered Sailaporo's words and muttered to himself, "It turns out that it's all true. This Shinigami is really strong. Master Aizen, I'm sorry." At this time, a group of small fish Arankar shouted in horror, "Master Nero, it's just one blow to knock down Espada. How is this possible?" "Monster!" Uehara Shiraha snorted noisy. An invisible cold air spread over and froze the small fish Arankar. These Arankars were carefully selected subordinates by Pied and Nero. Among all the non-Espada Arankars, these subordinate officers are also considered elites, but in the face of the extreme cold, they can't even last a second. The Arankars who had just had the advantage in numbers, in the blink of an eye, only the panting four-knife Pied was left. He was looking at Uehara Shiraha with a doubtful look, shocked. "I have never seen Lord Sailaporo pay so much attention to a person, so I knew you were strong, but I didn't expect you to be so strong. Who are you?" Pied's right arm was twisted into a knot, and blood was dripping from his wrist to the ground, circling the desert minister. In just a moment of fighting, he endured unimaginable pressure. This pressure made him breathless, his breathing stopped, and his blood coagulated. In fact, strictly speaking, it can't be considered a fight. It was just a one-sided crushing. If it weren't for the ability taking effect just now, Pied reacted in 1/10,000th of a second and blocked it with his arm, he would have been gone. "I am a Shinigami who harvests your lives." Uehara Shiraha looked at Pied briefly, then shook his head and lost interest. After a year of training, his new technique and white hits have reached the Millennium Captain level. At this point, his Zanquangwi has almost reached the limit of the Shinigami race. The result is that these two so-called espadas are not even qualified for him to fight seriously. One knife and one punch almost solve the two. The current espada, really water. The next second, Pied smeared the blood from his right hand on his left hand, bursting all the Ryatsu, raised his left hand and pointed it at Uehara Shiraha and said, "Embarrassing flash." A large area of red siro, like a sea of blood, covered the front. The terrifying Ryatsu scattered in all directions, impacting the sky and the earth, destroying everything along the way and even distorting the space. Seeing this scene, Pied breathed a sigh of relief. This move is a unique move of Espada. Because it is too powerful, it is forbidden to use in the Palace of Night. If he is hit by this move, no matter how strong this guy is. However, at this moment, his ability to sense danger was activated. Pied felt a chill all over his body, and his left side felt like being pricked by a needle. He immediately reacted and dodged to the right. In a huge red shock wave, a strong/shattered Wang Su's flashed like a bamboo, and the remaining force directly cut off Pied's body. Facing this destructive slash, Pied's steel skin and ability were useless. He fell in a pool of blood, gasping for breath. The attack came from the right. I was completely deceived. I lost completely. The gap in strength was too big, leaving Pied without any resistance, and he could only accept the fate of defeat and death in despair. This feeling was like facing an adult who gave him a new life. Chapter 75, Super Vasto Lord. Sailaporo, just when Pied was dying in despair, a figure suddenly appeared in the desert. The man was also wearing a white windbreaker, with red hair and golden eyes, and a contemptuous smile on his face. He glanced at Pied, who was turning into spirit particles and dissipated, and said disdainfully, "What a waste, he can't even delay this little time. It seems that he can only start it in advance." After saying that, the man waved his hands, and a huge Ryatsu instantly filled the surroundings. This Ryatsu was extremely heavy and majestic, more terrifying than Pied and Nero combined, and more chaotic. A small tornado spread from him, blowing away the surrounding sand. Dozens of red and black interwoven columns quickly rose from the desert until they were more than 1 person tall. Each column contained strange energy. Dozens of energies mixed together to form a powerful circular barrier that enveloped the surroundings. It's not over yet. After the barrier rose, the man waved his hand again. The hidden mechanism was triggered, and layers of white walls began to rise, surrounding the place where the two stood, and the surface of the desert was covered with white stone. Soon, a huge building that looked like a palace had surrounded the two. The palace was surrounded by a powerful barrier that had just been activated. At this time, the red-haired man with glasses bowed slightly to Uehara Shiraha. "Sorry to have kept you waiting." The previous scene was too shabby, and it was too rude to use it to entertain guests. For a distinguished guest like you, only such a gorgeous stage is suitable for your status. I am the Zero Espada, Sailaporo Grands. Zero Blade Sailaporo has no hollow features on his body, and the degree of Aaroncarization is obviously not comparable to that of Pied and Nero. And this guy has no murderous intentions. He speaks in a gentle manner. With the glasses, he is full of the breath of a gentleman. Your acrobatics are good, and your barrier skills are also good. Uehara Shiraha can feel that his Ryatsu has been suppressed. This suppressive force is much stronger than before. This ability should come from the Vasto Lord who attacked Swayfoam. Sailaporo should have extracted and strengthened this ability. It seems that Sailaporo did not waste Valdez's body. As expected of the only scientist in Hueco Mundo, he is really good. Knowledge is power. Even in the anime world, science is the primary productive force. Look at Orochimaru and Kabuto, who believe in science in the Hokage world, and Vegapunk, who developed artificial devil fruit in the pirate world. Not to mention the Shinigami world. Uehara Kisuke is just like Doraemon, and Bankai can easily make a nuclear bomb with his hands. He can be called the Grey Wolf in the research and development world. Aizen, Kuratsuchi Mayuri, and Sailaporo have made great achievements in genetic engineering and life creation, and their methods are also very strange. Uehara Shiraha is also very curious. In addition to this barrier that suppresses Ryatsu, what other fancy skills does this guy have? Hearing what Uehara Shiraha said, Sailaporo was stunned for a moment, and then said in surprise, "It seems that you have already noticed that this is a trap. Then why didn't you stop me from deploying the barrier just now? Even if you didn't have time to stop me, it would be easy to escape with your ability, right? Because there is no need," Uehara Shiraha said casually. "It sounds like you are very familiar with my ability, and it seems that you have collected a lot of data. These scientists are good at targeting, and they're the type that are hard to lose in a fight. They are all Batman and old silver coin. Dealing with such people is like dealing with a wise man in the Golden Light Thunderbolt. Just come up and say nothing, and just use the big move. Since you have a good brain, then blow your brain. If not, then run away." However, Uehara Shiraha did not choose to do this. Because he has many trump cards and strong abilities, he specializes in all kinds of fancy tricks. In his eyes, Sailaporo's various weird and difficult methods are like monkey tricks, without any threat. But it is interesting and can be used to kill time. Sailaporo looked very proud and exclaimed, "You understand science. A year ago, you came to Hueco Mundo, showed the fascinating Bankai, and killed Rodney, Leo, and Jerome in Agassian. However, they were my experiments, and they had Ling Ling Chun placed in their bodies. My little cuties recorded the entire battle process. So, I have all your combat data. Your power is really fascinating. No matter whether it is Shinigami's Bankai or the power of time and space, it is a new world and a new power for him. The power of time and space is so wonderful, interesting, and powerful." Sailaporo could not resist this temptation, so he violated Aizen's order to ambush Uehara Shiraha. Uehara Shiraha was very calm. "So, you are confident to deal with my Bankai? If there is no Mind Stone, his Bankai may really be targeted. But in the Shinigami world, all abilities require the participation of mind power. Bankai is the embodiment of Shinigami's mind power. Mind Stone can dominate and control the mind. If he who has Mind Stone is dominated and controlled by others, it would be too funny. Therefore, Uehara Shiraha's Bankai is not suppressed by the barrier at all. But he will not show this. With this as a trump card, he will definitely be able to trick those guards who can snatch Bankai, and even Yawatch may suffer a big loss." Knowing nothing about the power of Mind Stone, Sailaporo was full of confidence. "Not only your Bankai, but also all your moves and even all your thoughts. I have mastered them. I have analyzed all your Ryatsu patterns and turned them into tangible data. With this data, no matter how powerful you are, you can't threaten me." As he spoke, he looked at Uehara Shiraha with burning eyes. He wanted to put this Shinigami on the dissection table to study it clearly. At the same time, he was also looking forward to what kind of potential this Shinigami could burst out and what kind of interesting methods he would use when facing a desperate situation. "Really? I don't believe it." After saying that, Uehara Shiraha slashed with a knife. He deliberately used a slashing technique similar to that of a year ago, just to see how Sailaporo would respond. "Didn't I say it? I have all your data." Facing this powerful slash, Sailaporo dodged it with a light turn, and then showed a smug smile. "Of course, these data include your knife habits, strength, and speed. So your knife can't hurt me. This is the power of science." Looking at the smug Sailaporo, Uehara Shiraha didn't waste words. Shunpa flashed and slashed again. A cold knife light like a white silk, like a white rainbow, piercing Hiruzen towards Sailaporo's head. Sailaporo sneered. "I said, I have seen through all your attacks. You are wasting your energy." Facing Ryatsu's sharp knife light, he didn't take it to heart and dodged the knife light again with a light flash, and at the same time drew his knife to fight back. However, at this moment, the flesh and blood clothes on Sailaporo's right shoulder suddenly exploded, and a blood arrow flew out. The smile on his face froze, and he looked at the wound that suddenly appeared on his shoulder and said in shock, "Your speed and strength were not like this before. Why can your Ryatsu still hurt me? What kind of monster are you?" As the top powerhouse among Vasto Lord, Sailaporo has not been injured for a long time. His powerful steel skin and Ryatsu are enough to withstand most of the damage. And he made a lot of arrangements for Uehara Shiraha's Ryatsu. On the one hand, he weakened the opponent's Ryatsu. On the other hand, he adjusted his own spirit particles to be more able to withstand the opponent's Ryatsu attack. In addition, he mastered all the opponent's combat data, which can be said to be foolproof. However, after so many preparations, he was easily cut by a knife. This is unscientific. In the huge palace in the desert, looking at the shocked Sailaporo, Uehara Shiraha swung his knife again. His slashing technique is not so fancy, nor is it as random as Zaraki Kenpachi. Simply put, it is like a sword-drawing slash that has been practiced 1,000,000 times, which is the ultimate speed, accuracy, and ruthlessness. It looks simple, but even a 1,000-year captain will suffer if he is not careful. Facing this condensed sword, the injured Sailaporo learned his lesson this time and did not take it lightly. He swung his sword to defend while turning back. As a top-level Vastu, his strength is comparable to that of a top-level captain. Therefore, even if his thoughts were a little confused, he still made the right response in time. After successfully resisting Uehara Shiraha's second sword, Sailaporo operated Ryatsu, and the wound on his shoulder healed quickly. Seeing this scene, Uehara Shiraha raised his eyebrows. High-speed regeneration? It seems that you're different from ordinary Arankars. Those guys don't have such abilities. The previous Arankars were different from what he remembered. Those Arankars could not return to the blade, and they were obviously not complete Arankars. The Sailaporo in front of him seemed to be a complete Arankar, but he had high-speed regeneration that ordinary Arankars did not have, and it seemed that he would not return to the blade. At this time, Sailaporo had recovered from the shock just now and smiled evilly. Don't compare me with those defective products. The Arankars you defeated were just unsuccessful experiments, and my evolution is perfect. I have successfully mastered the power of Arankar, and the next step is to remove that burden and become more perfect. But what's wrong with you? Why did you suddenly become so strong? Sailaporo is very confident in his own strength because he has his brother's soul in his body. His Ryatsu and strength are far beyond ordinary Vastu. Even if he fights with his own strength, he is sure to defeat Uehara Shiraha. The series of traps he set for the opponent are just to better obtain the material of the real eyelid. But that was his previous idea. Now facing the greatly increased strength of Uehara Shiraha, Sailaporo feels that things seem to be out of control. Uehara Shiraha said disdainfully, "You don't really think that after a year, my strength is still the same as before? I practice very hard. Of course my strength will increase rapidly." Question mark. Sailaporo had a question mark on his face. Are you kidding me? This is not just a little bit of progress, but a qualitative leap. Please give me flowers. Only practicing for a year can get such a huge improvement in strength. Is this reasonable? With this speed of improvement, even the Minos Grande, who eat their own kind, can't compare. Sailaporo always thought that he was special, and his speed of strength improvement was outstanding among the tile-level Minos Grande. But compared with the one in front of him, the talent gap is simply the difference between a hill and a grain of sand. But soon, his expression became fanatical, and the look he gave Uehara Shiraha was like looking at some rare bird or beast. He said excitedly, "Your growth rate is really amazing. I have also analyzed other Shinigami's Ryatsu, and they are no match for you. Although you are essentially the same kind of life, you are very special. Not only compared to Shinigami, you are special, but also compared to hollows and humans. It's great to meet you. You are the best experimental material." Uehara Shiraha shrugged. "You are also good in my eyes, and you look qualified to be a grindstone." Now, Sailaporo, who has two souls in one, is still very strong, but he will not be able to do so after splitting his soul. Unlike the future Stark, who can still occupy the position of a blade after splitting his soul, and his strength is still very strong. But after splitting his soul, Sailaporo can only make hamburgers, be the eighth brother, and do intelligence and scientific research. Whetstone, Sailaporo, smiled mysteriously. You should do it yourself. After saying that, he shook his body, and some black liquid emerged from his body and flew into the sky, and then fell towards Uehara Shiraha. Using the perception of the color of sight, Uehara Shiraha had already seen the result. He frowned and dodged a little. It was just that there was too much black liquid, and a drop of black liquid still fell on him. When it touched his body, the drop of liquid began to expand and deform, and finally became his appearance. Even the clothes and weapons were exactly the same. You were good at juggling? Then what? Uehara Shiraha looked at another self who appeared out of thin air with a calm face. He had long been accustomed to this. While speaking, Uehara Shiraha took a step forward and ended up touching the black liquid on the ground. A new replica appeared again and chopped at him with a knife. Uehara Shiraha chopped with a knife and smashed the replica. However, as if receiving some orders, the liquids that fell on the ground began to condense and deform, and all turned into copies of Uehara Shiraha. These copies looked at Uehara Shiraha with cold eyes. Sailaporo laughed. Ha ha, do you think this is a simple copy? My skills are invincible. These copies can copy all your moves and even your Zampakit ability, and they are endless. Let me see you. Before he finished speaking, Uehara Shiraha over there waved splitting void. Ice Age. Instantly, invisible cold air rolled out, and wherever it passed, ice crystals condensed and the air froze. Whether it was the large number of copies that had just appeared or the black liquid on the ground, they were all frozen. Looking at those frozen selves, he nodded secretly. Although they were fake, they were still very handsome. This is impossible. Sailaporo was shocked when he saw this scene and wondered, why doesn't the replica have such ability? Moreover, why can't the replica copy the power of Zampakit? As he said this, he released Ryatsu and probed nerves to carefully sense Uehara Shiraha's Ryatsu. Immediately, Sailaporo's face changed and he was shocked. Strange, your Ryatsu. Soul is protected. Why do you suddenly have such power? You didn't have such power a year ago. Is a new Bankai move? What secrets do you have? His technology is not a simple copy or suppression of Ryatsu, but an imitation of the essence of the soul. Because of this, the barrier set by Sailaporo can suppress Zampakit's Bankai and even copy Bankai. Because in essence, Shinigami's Zampakit Bankai is the manifestation of soul characteristics. Sailaporo obtained this ability to act directly on the soul through studying Nagase in Silk. This ability has always been invincible. This is the first time it has failed. The Shinigami in front of him is completely unreasonable, breaking all his calculations and making his careful plans fail again and again. So this is all you can do? Use your invincible skills to think of a solution. With the power of the Mind Stone, Uehara Shiraha saw Sailaporo's flaws and the secrets of the surrounding barrier. It must be said that the strength and skills of this Watt-level Minos Grande are both desirable. The power that targets the soul cannot be dealt with by ordinary people. However, with the Mind Stone, any ability that targets the mind and soul cannot be effective on him. Moreover, although Sailaporo's strength is very strong, his own flaws are too fatal. No wonder the other party will take the initiative to split the soul in the future, perhaps because he is aware of his own shortcomings. Of course, this flaw is not considered a flaw under normal circumstances, and the so-called general situation never includes facing Uehara Shiraha. Chapter 76 brothers work together to give it away for free facing Uehara Shiraha's ridicule. Sailaporo calmed down instead. There was a chill in his eyes. Since data and technology are useless, let's speak with strength. I'm just not used to solving problems with simple fighting, not that I'm not good at it. Also, don't forget that your power is not suppressed by me. This time, Sailaporo carried out the operation without telling Aizen. Previously, Paid and Nero were also scapegoats he found. He had to complete his goal with such a big risk. Uehara Shiraha's power and secrets were too tempting. The power of time and space is the most magnificent gem. Even the aging power of Berrigan, the former king of Hueco Mundo, cannot compare with it. Therefore, no matter what, Sailaporo will not give up the opportunity to study the power of time and space. It seems that you're very confident in your strength and barrier. Uehara Shiraha activated the power of the Mind Stone. Although this barrier is interesting, I have seen enough, so please remove it from me. Although the ability to target the soul is difficult to deal with, it is nothing in front of the Mind Stone. In the Shinigami world, everything has a soul, and there's a soul in all things. The soul has powerful energy, and the mind calendar can transform this energy into a terrible ability. Any ability activated by the power of the mind must kneel down and call the Mind Stone Daddy. Whether it is the Shinigami's Bankai, the Fullbringer's Fullbring, the Quincy's Spirit Armor, the Guard's Perfect Body, or the ancient artifact with self-awareness, the barrier with personal will, there is no exception. Uehara Shiraha's current application of the Mind Stone can even suppress the transcendent, not to mention a mere Vasto Lord. Even if Sailaporo is the best among the Vastos, a super Vasto, he still cannot resist the power of the 9-5 to block the Mind Stone. The power of the Infinity Stones was activated instantly, invading Sailaporo's consciousness space. Here, Uehara Shiraha saw a little yellow-haired boy with a defiant look and an arrogant expression. The moment he saw Uehara Shiraha, the little yellow-haired boy was startled and then shouted, "My name is Ilfert Grands. Come and fight." This spirit was Sailaporo's brother, who was a general in his lifetime, cruel and bloodthirsty, and extremely warlike. In the future, Sailaporo developed the secret technique of conception notification and split it out to become the 15th blade. In the Arankar chapter, Ilfert went to the human world as a subordinate of Gulyuya to cause trouble for Kurosaki Ichigo, and was then killed by the red-haired Abarai Ringis. Bankai, Baboon King, Zabamaru. Okay, but you have to gain control of the body first and remove the barrier first. In the consciousness space, Uehara Shiraha's calm voice has an irresistible temptation. The power of the Mind Stone plus the situation. The iron-headed Ilfert was immediately controlled. He took control of the body according to Uehara Shiraha's order and removed the surrounding barriers. And in the process, Ilfert had no doubt at all, thinking that he was acting according to his own will. This is the power of the Mind Stone. Under the effect of the Mind Stone, Sailaporo was completely unaware of what he had done. His thoughts were still on Uehara Shiraha sneered at what he had just said. Let me remove the barrier? How is it possible? Will a hunter give up the easy prey in the trap? Don't be delusional. Give up. At this point, his face changed, and he said in shock, the barrier was actually removed. What did you do? Impossible. This barrier can only be removed by me. The cold moonlight sprinkled on the huge, white palace, and the red and black columns in the palace had disappeared. The barrier covering the surroundings that suppressed Uehara Shiraha Ryatsu and Zampiket also disappeared. At this moment, sweat oozed from Sailaporo's forehead. He looked at his hands, then at the disappearing barrier, and was confused. Who am I? Where am I? What did I do? This barrier used a lot of his unique techniques, and no one except him could remove it. He was absolutely sure of this. So, how did Uehara Shiraha remove the barrier in an instant? Is all this reality or an illusion? I gave the order, and you just obeyed it. Uehara Shiraha looked at Sailaporo with interest. This shows that you are actually afraid of me and don't want to be my enemy. Subconsciously, you made the most correct choice. It is not shameful to survive. Sailaporo, you are really a smart person. He can control Sailaporo so easily, on the one hand, because the SR level mind gem is very powerful. On the other hand, Sailaporo has another consciousness in his body, which is a natural breakthrough. With such a defect, the mind gem can fully exert its power. Therefore, Sailaporo was fooled around. Without the restriction of the barrier, Uehara Shiraha felt relaxed. The Ryatsu on his body suddenly became stronger, piercing Sailaporo's soul like a sharp blade. Am I really afraid? Feeling the terrifying Ryatsu, Sailaporo was slightly shaken. However, He was a top Minos Grande who had lived for 1,000 years. He reacted quickly and shouted, "Is that you, Ilford? Didn't I tell you that I would give you a new body? Why are you still messing around?" As expected, even Aaron Carr has flaws. I need stronger technology to become more perfect. He was more eager to complete the experiment and perfect the power of conception notification. Only in this way could he get rid of his brother's entanglement and gain real control of his body. At this moment, in the consciousness space, Ilford spoke. "My stupid oh-doo-doo. I admit that your little tricks are sometimes very useful and can even make you uneasily. But you forget that this is Hueco Mundo, and we are virtual. Our power, life, status, rights, and even souls are all obtained through fighting and killing. Strength is everything. Only with strength can you survive and be qualified to pursue a perfect life. You forgot your duty, so you ended up like this. Strength is everything," Sailaporo murmured to himself. "Maybe it is true. Then for the best experimental materials, for my research in my life, I will make an exception and cooperate 10 times. After speaking, he looked up and looked at Uehara Shiraha with an extremely fierce look. At this moment, he tore off the cloak of civilization, threw away the curiosity of scientists, and returned to the original purest and most terrifying primitive beast. There was a fanatical flame burning in his golden pupils, which was the flame of thirst for fighting, killing, and power. That was not Sailaporo's eyes, but Ilford's eyes, or the eyes of the two of them combined. This was his complete form. Looking at Sailaporo, whose aura had changed drastically, Uehara Shiraha raised his eyebrows. "Nice eyes." The complete form of Sailaporo was also vulnerable to the Mind Stone and splitting Void Bankai. Therefore, Uehara Shiraha was not afraid at all and regarded this as a more intense actual combat training. That was all. As if sensing Uehara Shiraha's disdain, Sailaporo grinned. "If it weren't for you, I wouldn't be able to enter this state. I only now know that I can become so strong. Thank you for awakening such a powerful power." Now, his various perceptions are extremely sharp, and his nerd detection has been pushed to the limit, and he can sense any slight movement. His body functions and Ryatsu have also been improved to a higher level. Half of him is like ice, and the other half is like magma. The fusion of the two has turned into an endless source of power. Feeling the unprecedented powerful force, Sailaporo felt that he would not lose. His whole body burst into red Ryatsu, and a red beam of light shot up into the sky, turning the moonlight falling from the sky into a blood red. Under the impact of the powerful Ryatsu, the air, slaves, and space were distorted. The hard walls made of special materials around him even cracked. The boundless killing intent and the blood-colored Ryatsu enveloped Uehara Shiraha. Facing this terrifying Ryatsu attack that was like a sea of blood and corpses, Uehara Shiraha did not move, but Ryatsu condensed and easily blocked it. The 1,000-year-old captain-level Zanshuan Gizu brought an unbreakable foundation and terrifying strength. "You are really at ease." Sailaporo sneered, flashed forward, and moved forward. When he came in front of Uehara Shiraha, he slashed with a knife. His attack was sharp and swift, and ordinary people could not react at all. The large amount of red Ryatsu condensed on the blade, and the tip of the blade instantly turned into a terrifying slash. Ordinary Vashal would be killed instantly by this terrifying slash. At the critical moment, Uehara Shiraha's shoulders sank, and his right arm swung out. Golden Ryatsu condensed, and the knife flashed. Instantly, the two blades intersected. The golden and red Ryatsu collided with each other, forming a huge round light ball with half golden and half red. Then the red light overwhelmed the golden light, and the huge light ball broke apart. Boom! As the light ball exploded, the red and black slash wave rushed in all directions, destroying everything along the way. The solid walls around were torn apart by the Ryatsu and slash wave like pieces of paper. The earth cracked, and the atmosphere trembled. The Minos Grandes who felt the aftermath of the battle were trembling. At the same time, a huge pit appeared where the two blades collided, and the surrounding sand was slowly sinking into it. The place where the two stood became the only place around that did not collapse. Sailaporo, who had stimulated his potential, became stronger. The slash he casually made was even more powerful than the King Zero light of the four-edged pied. And it was not just a little bit stronger, but several times stronger. Even Sailaporo was proud of his powerful moves. He had always been smooth sailing, but this was the first time he was forced into such a situation and then experienced the joy of fighting. But soon he was shocked to find out. Uehara Shiraha was completely intact and even took it easily despite his powerful blow. Sailaporo was slightly startled and then launched a more fierce attack. The next moment, the two figures disappeared at the same time. The two figures collided in the air, then disappeared again and collided again. Ryatsu and Ryatsu collided, slashing and slashing. This was a bloody fight, and the area was extremely dangerous. After a while, the main body of the palace collapsed and shattered, no longer having the grand and magnificent appearance before. This palace came quickly and left even faster. In the collapsed palace, Sailaporo was getting more and more frightened. During the battle, he continued to burst out stronger power and used various powerful methods. Any move he made was much stronger than before. However, facing such a fierce attack and such a powerful move, Uehara Shiraha still looked like he still had some strength left. When the barrier rose before and when he launched the secret technique, the opponent also looked like he was at ease. Moreover, the opponent's body movement, strength, slashing, perception, and other aspects were all flawless, and he was almighty. This Shinigami's strength is unfathomable, as if there is no limit. Have you really been a Shinigami for less than 100 years? Sailaporo was shocked. 200 years ago, when I invaded Siriidii, I fought with your Shinigami captain. I remember that captain was also known as Kenpachi and was said to be the strongest Shinigami captain, responsible for fighting. But his strength is simply incomparable to yours. How can you have such strength in less than 100 years? You still have too little experience. Uehara Shiraha slashed with a knife and felt that Sailaporo was a little surprised. Don't mention him as a time traveler. There are many talented monsters in the original Shinigami world. For example, Aizen, who is well hidden, Zaraki Kenpachi, who could defeat Uno Hanaretsu as a child, and Kurosaki Ichigo, who is invincible from the start. Facing the sharp sword light that came like lightning, Sailaporo swung his sword to defend and used his cleverness to block Uehara Shiraha's slash. I may not know you Shinigami well enough. However, the battle just now made me familiar with your Ryatsu, movements, moves, and experience. So I remastered your combat data, and then I could jump over your moves. And you can't keep up such an offensive. Is your breathing getting heavy? Now he has both the power of a wild wolf and terrifying observation and calculation ability. This state that combines the specialties of two brothers and 1.6 people has no reason to lose to a mere Shinigami. The sky is clear and the rain has stopped. Do you think you can do it? Uehara Shiraha continued to slash with ease. The casual sword is extremely condensed, and although the Ryatsu is not obvious, it is amazingly powerful. Sailaporo blocked confidently, but was still a little slow, only blocking the blade. The sharp tip of the knife pierced his steel skin, and a burst of blood flew into the air. He was startled and quickly burst out Ryatsu and swung the knife hard. The two slashed and collided again and retreated from each other. At this time, drops of blood fell, reflecting the figures of the two. In a moment, the two figures in the blood beads, as if they were in a sea of blood, disappeared again. Sailaporo, who had just activated the ring and retreated, had his pupils shrink, and his mental power was concentrated on a rapidly attacking sharp knife. Except for the sharp blade that seemed to be able to penetrate the sky and the earth, there was nothing else in his eyes. The speed and strength of the knife became stronger again, and this kid exceeded his calculations again. In this case, then don't hide. With a wild roar, Sailaporo followed his instinct, avoided the vital points, and slashed at the upper white brain. He actually adopted a fighting method of exchanging injuries for injuries. Without any surprise, his body was pierced by the blade and blood gushed out. Sailaporo showed a smug smile. You Shinigami have no defense ability, but I have steel skin and high-speed regeneration. I won. You should have used Bankai earlier. After saying that, he endured the pain and continued to swing the knife, slashing Uehara Shiraha's chest. Then, this powerful knife did not break the defense at all, and even did not break Uehara Shiraha's skin. Sailaporo was stunned. The scene was very embarrassing for a while. Chapter 77. Hueco Mundo shakes. The Vasto Lords are shocked under normal circumstances. Sailaporo would never be easily injured. His slashing attack would not have no effect at all. After all, he is a super Vasto Lord, and he has accumulated 1,000 years of experience. However, Sailaporo relied on his high-speed regeneration and steel skin, so he chose to fight with injuries. Uehara Shiraha has a nearly perfect universal barrier, and his defense is amazing. Vasto's steel skin is a younger brother in front of a universal barrier. In addition, he can accurately judge the place to be attacked by foreseeing the future, so he can gather a lot of Ryatsu in advance for targeted defense. The combination of the two allowed him to take Sailaporo's full-strength slashing attack without injury. Of course, if Uehara Shiraha hadn't wanted to get familiar with the 1,000-year-old captain-level Zhenquang Wizu, he would have ended the battle long ago. Whether it is the perfect level stand, splitting Void's Bankai, or the power of the Mind Gem, Sailaporo can be quickly dealt with. At this time, Sailaporo had realized that something was wrong and hurriedly released all his Ryatsu to save the situation. The red Ryatsu beam reappeared. But this time, Uehara Shiraha was not going to hold back. Perfect white album activated. The invisible power of ice permeated the surroundings, as if it could freeze even the space. In an instant, the temperature around dropped sharply. Ice and snow filled the air, and the air froze. 0 degrees, -10 degrees, -40 degrees. Even if Sailaporo released amazing Ryatsu in time, he could not stop this terrifying cold. His body, Ryatsu, and even his soul began to freeze. How was it possible? Sailaporo's stiff face showed a shocked expression. How can a mere Shinigami have such power? What kind of ability is this? Why can't Ryatsu be used to resist it? And why doesn't this extreme cold air hurt this Shinigami? What is the principle? I don't understand. I am unwilling. My skills are perfect. At this time, Zero Blade seemed to have become 100,000 wise. This invisible cold air is really weird. He transformed his body in advance, so he is very resistant to Uehara Shiraha's Ryatsu. So even if he was at a disadvantage in the fight just now, he was still unharmed. But this ice power is too weird. There is no opponent's Ryatsu at all. It's like an attack from another Life 29. This is not Shinigami at all. It's very unreasonable. Uehara Shiraha drew out Splitting Void, took a step back, and continued to activate the power of the stand. In the blink of an eye, Sailaporo, the top Hueco Mundo warrior, was frozen in a huge block of ice. But even so, this guy didn't die immediately, and still died with his strong vitality and regeneration. As expected of a top-level Vaxu, he can hold on. He wanted to see how long this guy could hold on. At this time, Sailaporo was in a dilemma. The power of extreme cold was too tricky, and his mind was about to freeze. He either activated the preset life-saving trump card or fought to the death. Without hesitating for too long, Sailaporo gritted his teeth and activated the black, strange substance in his body. The black substance immediately spread and began to divide the space to form an independent world. When sensing the fluctuation of the strange space, Uehara flew back. Just as he left, a pure black coffin-like square barrier completely enveloped Sailaporo. The power of the black barrier is similar to the Nagase Inn of Minos Grande, both of which isolate the inner and outer worlds. Uehara Shiraha immediately thought of the name of this barrier, Nagase Inn Bandit. This thing is a strange substance developed by Aizen based on Nagase Inn, which conceals spirits in another space. The original purpose was to execute some disobedient subordinates. In the plot, Grimmjow used this thing to trick Ulquiorra and got the opportunity to fight Kurosaki Ichigo, but was directly crushed by Hollow Bankai Ichigo. Such a spatial force is a difficult existence for Aizen and even the future Yhwach. However, Uehara Shiraha still has ways to deal with it, and more than one way. However, he did not act in a hurry, but released his perception power. His perception power went directly into the Nagase Inn bandits, completely ignoring the effect of isolating the space. Immediately, his expression became a little strange. There was a violent spatial reaction inside the Nagase Inn bandits. The Nagase Inn bandits plus the Nagase Inn channel might even have to add the Black Chamber, which is like a nesting doll. 3 insurances came at once. How afraid of death is this Sailaporo? It seems that his Bankai made the strongest Espada very scared. After thinking about it, Uehara Shiraha did not force the opponent to stay. Sailaporo is insignificant, and it is not worth him to expose too many cards. Moreover, this guy was seriously injured, and he would be useless if he didn't die. His golden pupils were filled with reluctance, shock, anger, and even fear. The key to a higher level of power was clearly in front of him, but he could only flee in embarrassment. He would never forget such humiliation and pain, and would retaliate sooner or later. At this time, Ilfit in the sea spoke. What's the point of you being ruthless now? You should have used the remaining strength in the battle and made a final effort. But you chose to run away, which is really shameful. Sailaporo, I don't have a brother like you. Cut it off. Shut up, Sailaporo snorted. You are too extreme, Ilfit. Cut it off. And he took this opportunity to perfect the power of conception notification. From then on, he would no longer be dragged down by this stupid brother, and he would become more perfect. Moreover, this time, he had no choice but to cut. Uehara Shiraha's slashing and freezing abilities were too strong, and his body was already riddled with holes. If it weren't for his special structure, he would have died long ago. With such injuries, he could only recover through the most extreme means. Weakening himself and being expelled from Espada were inevitable. Uehara Shiraha, what a terrible guy. In the ruined palace, looking at the disappearing bandits of Nagase Inn, Uehara Shiraha shook his head. Super Vasto Lord. Nothing more than that. No wonder Aizen finally gave up the Espada he had cultivated. This Arrancar is really no good. As the saying goes, it is difficult for a Ein's spirit to become a saint after 10,000 calamities. The hollows in the Shinigami world are just like Ein's spirits, and are also not tolerated by heaven and earth. To a certain extent, the Soul King is the spokesperson of the world's will. His existence is to prevent the world from being swallowed by the hollows. So the hollows are not favored by the world's will, and their upper limit is not as good as Shinigami and the Quincy, and they do not have their own civilization and complete practice system. Even if Arrancar breaks through the bottleneck and strengthens his sanity, the combat power of the Hollow is still not good enough. Therefore, in the plot, Hueco Mundo is so lame and is slaughtered by Shinigami and Quincy one after another. So Espada and Hollow are not good. No wonder Hollow Aizen becomes uglier and uglier as he evolves, and his fashion value, style, and appearance are all in a mess. And then he is upgraded to a broken defense by Ichigo Buddha. Aizen during the 1,000-year Blood War period is more like a person and performs better. But perfect Jayaku, is it such an inconvenient thing? Aizen does not understand Jayaku at all. Such a divine weapon should be in his hands. Uehara Shiraha's battle with 1 against 3 shook the entire Hueco Mundo. A group of Arrancars with keen perceptions were trembling. Even a few Espadas were no exception. How could they not be afraid? He killed 3 Espadas by himself, including a super strong man like Zero Blade. Several Vasto lords were able to keep their composure. They were shocked and had their own thoughts. The future One-Blade Stark looked up at the moonlight and said in a deep voice, "That guy seems to be very strong, 9-lit. Do you think he can be our companion?" What are you talking about? The petite 9-lit looked irritable. His Ryatsu is obviously different from ours. How can such a guy be our friend? He will only be our enemy. Except for me. You have no other companions. Give up. Really? Stark looked disappointed. The former king of Hueco Mundo Berrigan was shocked and angry. Is this Hueco Mundo still his Hueco Mundo? When will Shinigami be able to act so recklessly in Hueco Mundo? Can this Hueco Mundo be good? The future Three Blades Harabel was shocked and a little worried. With such a strong man coming to Hueco Mundo, it is too difficult to have peace. Does the world without sacrifice promised by Aizen really exist? Shinigami? He is really a terrifying strong man, but it has nothing to do with me. I will try my best to avoid being enemies with such strong men. Neliel is very open-minded. After being shocked, she should eat, sleep, and play. The future Four Blades Ulquiorra was also shocked. It was hard to imagine that there were such strong men in the world. Fighting maniacs like Neutra and Grimjow were shocked at first, and then they became excited like crazy. Under the golden moonlight, Masahara looked towards the direction of a night palace with a white face. His eyesight was amazing, and he could already see the huge outline in the distance. It was a huge palace, different from the Western style of the Siriidei. The outline could be seen from such a distance, which was enough to prove how magnificent this palace was. At this moment, Uehara Shiraha's meaningful gaze seemed to meet the interested gaze of the one in the Kainyaku Palace. In the Kainyaku Palace, Aizen's gaze was also looking in the direction of Uehara Shiraha. In the spiritual perception, the battle over there was over. 2 Espada plus Sailaporo, the superstandard Vasset, did not lose. In less than 100 years, they have such strength. Interesting. Tosin Kiname next to him frowned and remained silent. Ikamaru Jin narrowed his eyes, his expression a little solemn. The two were shocked by Uehara Shiraha's strength again. Before, they only had a vague positioning of Uehara Shiraha's strength. He was very strong, but his opponent was just at that level. Whether it was Valdez or Jerome Zarenkar, they could kill them with all their trump cards. Therefore, they positioned Uehara Shiraha as a super genius. But now it's different. Although Sailaporo is a scientific research Zarenkar, his strength is definitely not weak. Otherwise, he would not have won the title of Zero Blade. Although the pink-haired four-eyed boy is very arrogant, his hard power has indeed reached the level of a top-level strongman. Being able to defeat such an existence, Uehara Shiraha has at least reached the threshold of a top-level strongman. Such a strong man, no matter what, cannot be taken lightly. It's really outrageous that he can have such strength in less than 100 years. It's a bit insulting to call him a genius. He should be called a monster. Immediately, the 3 Shinigami captains moved their expressions. Here they come. They looked at the black cavity that suddenly appeared. In the torn black cavity, the wounded Sailaporo rolled out, breathing weakly. After that, the cracks in the black cavity slowly closed until they disappeared. Seeing this scene, Aizen frowned, his eyes a little cold. Sensing Sailaporo's unprecedented weak Ryatsu, Tosin Kiname frowned and rebuked. Sailaporo, you dare to disobey the order of Lord Aizen and challenge Uehara Shiraha without authorization. And you actually lost the fight. These Zarenkar are just tools to enforce justice. If they are incompetent or disobedient, then there is no need for them to exist. Ah, isn't this the strongest Espada? How could it be beaten so badly? Ikamaru Jin narrowed his eyes and gloated. Before, didn't you say that a mere Shinigami couldn't compare to Zarenkar? What's going on now? Is it that you, the Zero Blade, don't deserve the name? 073, I'm sorry, Master Aizen. Sailaporo ignored Tosin Kiname and Ikamaru Jin, but panted hard, slowly stood up, and knelt in front of Aizen. All his internal organs were irreversibly damaged, and even high-speed regeneration could not recover from such injuries. He barely managed to hold on with many secret techniques. But before he got Aizen's forgiveness, he didn't dare to go back for treatment. Aizen looked calm. Sailaporo, why do you have to apologize? In fact, I should apologize, because I didn't send someone to rescue you in advance. After all, I didn't expect you to be so seriously injured. There was a sinister taste in his calm words. Sailaporo keenly felt the murderous intent and immediately apologized. I'm sorry. Master Aizen, I was careless. I wanted to prove my loyalty so much that I accepted Nero's invitation and wanted to get rid of Uehara Shiraha from Master Aizen. But I didn't expect Nero and Pi to be defeated so quickly. I underestimated the growth of the enemy and lost Master Aizen's face. I am not worthy of the position of Espada. I am willing to accept any punishment. He knew how terrible the man in front of him was, so he was decisive and didn't dare to be tough. In his current state, he didn't have the capital to be tough. Sailaporo, I already know your loyalty to me, but you are indeed not suitable to continue to serve as Espada. At this point, Aizen changed the subject and said, Neros and Pied have proved that the first generation of Espada is unnecessary and should be replaced. The loser should be eliminated. Aren't you right, Sailaporo? Lord Aizen is right. Thank you for your forgiveness. I will never fail again. Sailaporo is very sensible. He knew that he had finally passed this level. Aizen nodded and said to Tosin Kiname, Yes, please take Sailaporo down for treatment first. Yes, Master Aizen. Tosin Kiname bowed his head and accepted the order, then turned and walked out. He knew how cruel and bloodthirsty these hollows were. With Sailaporo in this state, he might be killed by a sneak attack from that blind guy. What future can a race that focuses on self-destruction have? Thank you, Master Aizen. I will give everything for you. Sailaporo looked like he was ready to go through fire and water. However, just as he was about to step out of the palace with Tosin Kiname, Aizen spoke. You should have obtained enough data about Uehara Shiraha this time. If you have any research results, don't forget to report to me. Yes, Master Aizen. Sailaporo's body stiffened and cold sweat came down. He didn't dare to turn his head, and an inexplicable fear rose in his heart. It turns out that Aizen has always known that I launched this attack for Uehara Shiraha's Bankai. What a terrible man. No matter his strength or wisdom. Tosin Kiname, who was walking in front, snorted coldly and continued to move forward. Chapter 78, Godei, 13-foot S Overtures, Squad 14 at this time. Only Ikamer Jin and Aizen were left in the main hall of Kaya Palace. Looking at Aizen, who looked calm, Ikamaru Jin smiled and said, Lord Aizen, you are really mean. You knew from the beginning that Sailaporo was not honest, but didn't say it, just to scare him. Aizen looked at Ikamaru Jin leisurely, with a strange light in his eyes. People's hearts are really difficult to grasp. Even they themselves can't grasp it. The only thing I can do is to give them a Kaika Suigetsu that belongs to them alone. At the beginning, although his Kaika Suigetsu was very strong, it was not perfect. But he didn't give up, but fine-tuned and enhanced it again and again, giving different realities to different people. In the end, whether it was the world in the target person's heart or the world in his eyes, it was all in his hands. Lord Aizen's Kaika Suigetsu is of course perfect, without any weaknesses. Ikamaru Jin narrowed his eyes and said, However, do we really want to let my classmate continue to grow? He defeated 3 Espadas at once. His strength is a bit too terrifying. Uehara Shiraha's growth is indeed beyond expectations. Aizen recalled the scene when he first met Uehara Shiraha. At that time, he knew that the boy was special, but he didn't expect it to be so special, and it might even be close to his level. Ikamaru Jin's eyes flashed a barely perceptible light. That's what he said, but Aizen-sama is very happy in his heart. Can you tell? Aizen's expression was calm, and it was impossible to detect his inner thoughts. Ikamaru Jin smiled like a fox. It's really pitiful that Aizen-sama regards him as an opponent. In his words, he attributed Aizen's excitement to his excitement. However, Ikamaru Jin knew very well that this man was not that simple. Even he only glimpsed the tip of the iceberg of the other party's inner world. Are you excited about the prey? Aizen looked in the direction where Uehara Shiraha had been with an inexplicable look. Uehara Shiraha, who returned to the Imperial Army base, received countless admiring glances. As he eliminated powerful enemies one by one, these great villains from the 80th District became his diehard fans. In the past, these brutal guys only believed in swords and fists, but now they only believe in Uehara Shiraha. As long as Uehara Shiraha gave an order, They would not frown even if they were asked to go through mountains of swords and seas of fire. For them, being able to serve Uehara, it is worth dying to serve a strong man like Shiraha. These reckless men are so simple or stubborn. Unconsciously, most of the soldiers of the Imperial Army have reached their full loyalty. They only have General Uehara in their eyes, not the captain. Only the Imperial Army, not Godai, 13, and other forces. Uehara Shiraha is their god. Uehara Shiraha, who returned to Siriidei, was treated like a hero again. The Technology Development Bureau detected that Hueco Mundo had a strong Reiatsu fluctuation, and the level was Vasto Lord. And 3 of them appeared at once, one of which was even beyond the ordinary Vasto. The Shinigami of Siriidei panicked all of a sudden, thinking that the invasion of Soul Society by Vasto more than 200 years ago was going to happen again. Although Kuyashiki Kinpachi repelled the invading Minos Grande, Godai, 13, still suffered a great loss. However, after Uehara Shiraha arrived at Hueco Mundo calmed down, and the Reiatsu that was riding Vasto also disappeared. Godai, the 13 Shinigami, breathed a sigh of relief and were very grateful to Uehara Shiraha. In fact, this was not the first time they had been indebted to the Imperial Army and Uehara Shiraha. During this period of time, with Uehara Shiraha, the Imperial Army Commander-in-Chief, in charge of Hueco Mundo, Soul Society, and the present world have been much more peaceful. For this, all the Shinigami were very grateful. Uehara Shiraha's prestige also rose rapidly, and he had long surpassed ordinary Shinigami captains. Now, the Imperial Army is almost the 14th division in Siriidei. All this is just because they have an invincible commander-in-chief. The next night, Kaiaraka Shunsui held a celebration banquet for Uehara Shiraha, as usual, and the location was still the Flower Street. In the magnificent and green room, a group of young and beautiful beauties surrounded Uehara Shiraha like stars surrounding the moon. There were beautiful women everywhere, and it was very lively. He once again enjoyed the meticulous and personal care of the beauties. The white hands stirred the spoon, and the red sleeves added fragrance. The silk clothes were taken off lightly, and the buds were about to bloom. After a few spring breezes, Uehara Shiraha was transparent and comfortable. Several geishas who had been trained since childhood were giving him a personal massage. After all, they were professionals and their strength and skills were impeccable. After enjoying it for a while, Uehara Shiraha waved his hand. "You go down first." He sensed Kaiaraku Shuinsue's Reiatsu. After a while, Kaiaraka Shunsui came in with a bottle of fine wine. The two began to drink and chat. Uehara Shiraha looked at Kaiaraka Shunsui, who was drinking beside him, and smiled. "Brother Kaiaraku, why is it so big this time? This is the best flower house in the Flower Street. Your small treasury is going to be empty, right? The furnishings here are extremely luxurious, and Captain Shinigami will never see them in his life. The beauties who come to serve are all talented and beautiful, pure and flawless, and all are carefully cultivated top-quality products. The price is naturally very outrageous. Ordinary nobles can't afford it. This time Kaiaraka Shunsui is bleeding a lot. This time someone is treating us." Kaiaraku Shunsui smiled. "Just now, the old man Shan approved a large amount of military expenses for your court army. He also specifically asked me to thank you and that the first team would pay for all the expenses tonight. Even to his own team, the old man has never been so generous." He could also guess what the old man Shan meant. Whether it was the Ting army or Uehara Shiraha, they were no longer small-scale operations, but had become a force to be reckoned with. This money was the old man Shan's compensation. After all, Uehara Shiraha basically started from scratch and established the Ting army on his own. No one was optimistic about the Ting army before, and no one helped. But the Ting army developed and helped Godai 13 a lot. It was reasonable for Godai 13 to show some appreciation. Besides, given Uehara Shiraha's strength and the momentum of the Ting army, ordinary people were not qualified to pay for him. For the controllers here, they would rather not have money, but give Uehara Shiraha a favor. Money was just a number for Kairako Shunsui and Uehara Shiraha, and it was not important. For strong men of their level, what they wanted was attitude and respect. After hearing this, Uehara Shiraha took a sip from his wine glass and said, "Does the old man Shan want to recruit the Ting army?" The Ting army developed rapidly, and its momentum was so strong that even Tosin Kaname can see it. The development prospects of the Ting army are definitely not comparable to those of KID and the Technology Development Bureau. Godei 13 has previously recruited the Xing army, and it is possible that they want to recruit the Ting army after tasting the sweetness. Of course, Uehara Shiraha knows that the old man in the mountain can't be so shallow. Compared with the Ting army, he is more valuable as the commander-in-chief. This old man in the mountain may have long wanted to take down both the people and the Ting army. Ha ha ha, I can't hide it from you. Kairako Shunsui clapped his legs and laughed. In fact, at the beginning, Old Man Yama wanted to hone you. He thought that the Imperial Army could not be maintained at all, and you would be convinced by then. Unexpectedly, the Imperial Army developed so well that the old man was a little interested. Old Man Yama felt that talents were rare, so he let Uehara Shiraha's temper go, thinking that the other party would sooner or later turn back. As a result, no one expected that in a blink of an eye, Uehara Shiraha and the Imperial Army would rise strongly. Now, Old Man Yama is not optimistic about Uehara Shiraha, but values him and even relies on him. Uehara Shiraha said calmly, "In fact, with Old Man Yama's prestige, there is no need to do this. Besides, I'm still the third C of the first team, and I'm still a member of Godei 13. He was not arrogant, and he knew the thoughts of Kairaka Shunsui and Old Man Yama. This is actually a disguised way of winning over. It seems that the two are still thinking of letting him take over the position of the captain of Godei 13. It's just that this idea was not strong before, but it is different now. After all, his strength is a little beyond control, and those nobles will not be at ease." Kairako Shunsui picked up the small wine gourd and took a big sip. "Actually, it's good for you to stay in the court army. Godei 13 is not so free here. Those nobles are sometimes annoying." Kairako Shunsui said this because he understood Uehara Shiraha. After all, no one wants to be controlled by someone above them. It's better to work for others than to be your own boss. As for these benefits, it is the basic respect for a strong man. If it weren't for the rules, with Uehara Shiraha's strength and achievements, his status would only be higher. Therefore, Kairaka Shunsui became more and more dissatisfied with the Tsuneshiro family and the 46 rooms. Let's see when the time comes. Uehara Shiraha knew that Kairaka Shunsui was on his side. The nobles were using him. The old man's optimism and respect for him was based on the premise that he did not touch the bottom line and break the rules of Soul Society. He knew the ideas and plans of these people very well, but he didn't care much. Uehara Shiraha can only take advantage of the situation and fish in troubled waters to seek benefits for himself. Those blind guys, the future Tsuneshiro Tokunada and the Tsuneshiro family, are their role models. In the next few months, Godei 13 and the Ting army began to cooperate deeply. With a backer, the Ting army has a more solid foundation, and its scale is no less than that of the Xing army. Uehara Shiraha is not worried that Godei 13 and the nobles will interfere with the Ting army. The secrets of the Ting army are hidden in Rukongai and Hueco Mundo. The nobles in Godei 13 don't like these two places. Besides, the real core of the Ting army is not those bases and team members, but him as the commander-in-chief. Without Uehara Shiraha, the Ting army is not a climate at all. With the task system and many trump cards, he is sitting on the Daiyutai and is not panicking at all. Therefore, Uehara Shiraha's pace remains unchanged. Although his actions have triggered several public opinion storms and even changed the situation in the three realms to some extent. But he himself was like the eye of a hurricane, always calm and safe. However, others were not as confident as Uehara Shiraha. He could sit still, but others could not. The first person to come was Shihoin Yoruchi. Uehara Shiraha once again made an appointment with him in the hot spring in the underground base. The two of them had a sparring match first. This time, Uehara Shiraha agreed to use only Shuinpa and white hits, with the blessing of observation haki and the universal barrier. Even if he only used the Zhenquang Guizu, he would be a master of the 1,000-year captain level. If he activated the second stage of Bankai and added the power of the Mind Gem, it would be easy for him to defeat the 1,000-year Transcendent. Therefore, he naturally didn't need to take it too seriously against the senior captain. This time, Shihoin Yuruchi was very confident and had a sure win. After a few rounds of fighting, the clothes behind her suddenly exploded, and the spiritual energy spirit particles gushing out of her shoulders were like substance, like an extra pair of wings. She had suffered too much at the hands of Uehara Shiraha. In order to regain her ground, she was not idle during this period, but focused on developing her unique skills. Now, she has finally developed her own unique skills. At this time, Shihoin Yuruchi said proudly, "Hee, didn't expect it. This is my ultimate move Shunkan. Now my white hits and body contain the power of Kid. You have to be careful because the power of Shunkan is too great, so I can't release it freely." After saying that, her figure flashed, and she rushed towards Uehara Shiraha like a violent hurricane. Speed, strength, and power are all improved to a higher level, a good ultimate move. Uehara Shiraha nodded. Shunkan is a fusion skill of white hits and Kid, and its power is still very strong, stronger than ordinary Bankai. After opening Shunkan, Shihoin Yuruchi's white hits and Shunpa also reached the Millennium Captain level, which is a big improvement. Shihoin Yuruchi, who was as fast as the wind, was even more proud. Of course, we agreed before that you only use white hits and Shunpa, and don't use those strange abilities. After her strength skyrocketed, she really saw hope of turning over. As a Shunpa master, white hits expert, and with unique skills, how could she lose this battle? As soon as the voice fell, Shihoin Yuruchi turned in the air, and her straight, good, slender legs had already wrapped around Uehara Shiraha's neck. When Yuruchi's legs were like two spiritual pythons, Masahara Shiraha's figure suddenly disappeared. Faced with this change, Shihoin Yuruchi was not panicked at all. The Kid power behind her exploded, and her body suddenly turned to Shunpa and punched at Uehara Shiraha's foothold. "I got you." Boom! With a loud bang, Shihoin Yuruchi's punch was powerful and could not stop 10,000 people. However, immediately, her face changed, and she subconsciously wanted to use Shunpa, and then she saw a huge hand coming from the sky. It turned out that Uehara Shiraha had come to her without knowing when, and then stretched out his right hand. In the blink of an eye, Uehara Shiraha's right hand had already pressed on Shihoin Yuruchi's forehead, and then he swung it hard towards the ground. With an astonishing burst of power, Shihoin Yuruchi was slapped away like a chicken. But after all, she was Flash Goddess Yuruchi, and the moment she landed, she quickly performed Shunpa and narrowly avoided the terrible blow. As soon as she left the spot, Uehara Shiraha was like a god descending from the sky and kicked the ground to pieces the moment he landed. With one kick, Ryatsu exploded, the earth trembled, and the ground cracked. With a boom, the deep gullies of the day suddenly appeared on the hard ground. Seeing this scene, Shihoin Yuruchi's golden pupils shrank slightly. If she had been slower, she would have been the one torn apart. However, she also knew that Uehara Shiraha had shown mercy. Otherwise, she would not have been able to dodge it so easily. Is this man a monster? After activating Shunkai, her Shunpa and white hits were still far inferior to the other party. And the other party seemed to have seen through all her moves and thoughts. Before, this guy's white hits, Shunpa, and perception abilities were not so terrible. Only this guy could achieve such a rapid improvement. Chapter 79. Helpless Shihoin Yuruchi. The birth of Kyobaka Uehara Shiraha kicked out again in the excitement of the fight, forcing Shihoin Yuruchi to run for his life. It was interesting that the opponent had worked so hard to develop a special move, but in the end it could only be used to escape. However, Uehara Shiraha was very happy. It was comfortable to fight against a strong man, and there was no need to hold back too much, and it could also increase combat experience and improve strength. And fighting against a little wildcat like Shihoin Yuruchi was even more fun. Uehara Shiraha was happy, but Shihoin Yuruchi was uncomfortable. She even opened the instant release and couldn't even touch the opponent's clothes. And Uehara Shiraha hit her with a move, and she had to fight hard to dodge it. This feeling of life hanging by a thread made her dare not take it lightly, and she could only go all out. It was obvious that this dog man did it on purpose. Finally, Shihoin Yuruchi gave up. No more fighting, no more fighting. I'm tired. Let's take a hot spring bath. Her instantaneous time is up. If she continues to hold on, she will be played with by this guy as before. She is bullied by this guy without a special move, and she is still bullied by this guy with a special move. Isn't it a waste to develop the anti-special move? Uehara Shiraha did not object, and came to the hot spring with Shihoin Yuruchi, ready to start the program of accumulating strength. The base and hot spring here have been transformed. The barrier of the base was reinforced by Uehara Shiraha, and the concealment and safety were greatly enhanced. The healing function of the hot spring is more powerful than before. The appearance is more gorgeous than before, and it is more comfortable to soak in. In the misty hot air, Shihoin Yuruchi spread her long purple hair and looked very happy. She stretched her waist, revealing her slim and sexy body, which made Uehara Shiraha feast his eyes. By the way, when are you going to deal with Aizen? Shihoin Yuruchi teased Uehara Shiraha with her pink feet while saying, "Don't be naughty." To be honest, she was on good terms with Uehara Shiraha before, but she didn't want to be attacked from all sides. She didn't expect that she would lose herself, and she didn't expect that Uehara Shiraha's strength and power would develop so quickly. It was as if in the blink of an eye, this man grew into a behemoth. Uehara Shiraha grabbed the troublesome foot and played with it carefully, without saying anything. When faced with a sugar-coated bullet, his approach was to eat the sugar coating and throw away the bullet. Shihoin Yuruchi's body was hot and soft, and her face was speechless. This man is too bad. He only takes advantage without working. He is really freeloading. However, she still habitually leaned her sexy and hot body over. 2 hours later, Shihoin Yuruchi, who was clear-headed, brought up the old matter again and wanted to join forces with Uehara Shiraha to deal with Aizen. Over the years, Shihoin Yuruchi has been thinking about Aizen's weaknesses. As a result, she and Uehara Kisuk didn't find this guy's weakness. So, Shihoin Yuruchi thought that devil should be defeated by devil. Only Uehara Shiraha, who is equally mysterious, could defeat Aizen. But the man in front of her was soft and hard, and she was helpless. After several battles, she suffered in vain and didn't get any advantage. In the warm spring water, Uehara Shiraha, who wanted to have a cigarette after the event, just focused on the spring water as if he wanted to see a flower. Uehara, Mr. Shiraha, you're not really so ruthless, are you? Looking at Uehara Shiraha, who pretended to be deaf and dumb, Shihoin Yuruchi was furious. At the same time, she raised a pair of cat claws and looked eager to try. What's the hurry? Uehara Shiraha stopped teasing him and said lazily, Aizen is not that easy to deal with. You know this very well. The key is that the enemy at this time may not be a friend in the future. He and Aizen actually don't have any deep hatred. To some extent, the interests of the two can even be said to be the same. With this guy stirring up trouble and attracting attention in front of the stage, he can better fish in troubled waters behind the scenes. Hearing this, Shihoin Yu was shocked. Do you still want to cooperate with Aizen? Don't forget how terrible that guy is. It is definitely not a wise thing to cooperate with him. She is well educated and a smart person. But she was still fooled by Aizen. Aizen's wisdom, forbearance, and cruelty are beyond imagination. Even without the terrifying strength and the invincible Kaika Suigetsu, the other party can still stir up bloody storms in the Siriidii with just a smart mind. Anyway, she thought she couldn't beat Aizen. Even if it wasn't for revenge or Siriidii, she didn't want Uehara Shiraha to cooperate with Aizen. That four-eyed guy is not a good person, too insidious. Uehara Shiraha looked mysterious. I think it will be a troubled time soon. We will need Aizen's power at that time. Maybe this guy can help us save the world. During the Thousand-Year Blood War, if Aizen didn't take action, not to mention Godiai, 13, and Soul Society, the three realms would have to play with the courtyard. Such a good tool, of course you would want to use it. Besides, the perfect Jayaku still depends on Aizen. Question mark. Shin Yi faced a question mark, helplessly said, "The future is too far away. I can't wait. Now I just want to defeat Aizen and then live a peaceful life. Saving the world or something, it has nothing to do with me." Although she was used to Uehara Shiraha's nonsense, but this time it was still beyond her expectations. How could someone like Aizen help them save the world? This guy is obviously here to destroy the world. You want to live a peaceful life? Then it's really a waste of talent. Uehara Shiraha's eyes were full of suspicion. As expected, women are hypocritical. As for Shihoin Yoruchi's fun-loving attributes, at least he is a Zhuo Dao, and he can't live a peaceful life at all. On the contrary, Matsumoto Ranjaku, who seems to be always making trouble, really wants to live a peaceful life. But because of this, Uehara Shiraha and Shihoin Yoruchi get along so well. After all, Yoruchi doesn't care how many girlfriends he has.
No more novels? Take part in the voting. The most requested novels and those with the most likes will be chosen for publication on euroaudiobooks.com. There, I can upload as much as I want without the risk of receiving a strike. Our 18 novels and other content that exceed what is morally acceptable are only published on Patreon or the free novels page. Remember, the site is funded by donations on Ko-fi and Patreon memberships.